Chapter 77. In the Pavilion of the School of White Lotus. The White Lotus Maiden Sage sat with her legs crossed as her Taoist rhymes filled the air. She was silently sparring with Chu Kuangren, and a surge of Taoist rhymes gradually appeared on Chu Kuangren's body. That surge of Taoist rhymes was extremely sharp and powerful. It was like a divine sword that showed off its brilliance. Two different Taoist rhymes intertwined and collided in the air. There are three most famous techniques in the School of White Lotus. They are the Supreme White Lotus Scripture, the Light of Purification, and the Sun Piercer. "Brother Chu, please have a taste of my Sun Piercer," the White Lotus Maiden Sage said. The Taoist rhymes on her body circulated in the air and suddenly formed into a human figure that swung its palms at Chu Kuangren. The crowd was amazed at the sight. She's indeed a maiden sage. Her Sun Piercer has been cultivated to the point of perfection. It's not inferior to the elders. Indeed, it's admirable. I also want to spar with you, Maiden Sage. You're thinking too much. Everyone stared at the pavilion without blinking. At that moment, Taoist rhymes gathered above Chu Kuangren's head and turned into a sword of the heavens with 9 holes on its blade. It then shot out a sword ray. The sword ray was like a rainbow that tore through the Sun Piercer in the blink of an eye. What a sharp sword, Tao! The White Lotus Maiden Sage was secretly shocked. She then unleashed all kinds of techniques from the School of White Lotus, and the sky was suddenly filled with beautiful flowers. However, no matter how many techniques the White Lotus Maiden Sage unleashed, the sword of the heavens above Chu Kuangren's head broke through all of them. He's so strong. No wonder he's the famous Chu Kuangren. Is this the power of a supreme sky pride? How deep is his understanding of sword Tao? It's terrifying. Chu Kuangren broke through all techniques with a single sword. That kind of power shocked everyone at the scene. Light of purification. Seeing that she could not break through Chu Kuangren's defense, the White Lotus Maiden Sage activated another top-notch technique from the School of White Lotus. A dazzling white light bloomed as if it wanted to purify all the impurities in the world. It then surged towards Chu Kuangren. Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. Chu Kuangren shouted. The sword of the heavenly Tao suddenly trembled, and a purple sword gleam whizzed out, piercing into the white light and completely tearing apart the Taoist rhyme within. The White Lotus Saintess Taoist rhyme suddenly dispersed. She took a deep breath and said, "I've lost this sparring session." Her Tao and techniques were completely incomparable to Chu Kuangren's. The Saintess lost? Sigh, what can we do? He's Chu Kuangren after all. Amazing. In the void, there were also a few figures spying on them. They were the elders of the School of White Lotus. They had been watching the sparring session from the beginning to the end. They were not surprised to see the White Lotus Saintess lose. They were well aware of how strong Chu Kuangren was. He could even defeat a young emperor, let alone the White Lotus Maiden Sage. This kid's Tao is the one sword to destroy all things, and it's already in its embryonic form. In the future, it will be extremely terrifying. Chu Kuangren is truly extraordinary. The few elders of the School of White Lotus were secretly exclaiming in admiration. Meanwhile, in the pavilion, Chu Kuangren had also retracted his Taoist rhyme. He had gained quite a lot from this sparring session, and his understanding of techniques had increased. The sparring session is to verify what one has learned. If one is only obsessed with winning or losing, then it's not worth it, Chu Kuangren said. "Brother Chu, you're right." The White Lotus Maiden Sage nodded. After that, the White Lotus Maiden Sage arranged for Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu to stay in the School of White Lotus for a few days. The next day, early morning, Chu Kuangren got up and opened the fantasy roulette as usual. He did not have high hopes of getting anything good at first. After all, he had just gotten the treasure locating skill not too long ago. Congratulations, host, for getting the legendary attribute, meditational clarity. What? Chu Kuangren suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Legendary? Did he get a legendary item again? Impossible, impossible, impossible. Chu Kuangren opened the fantasy roulette space and saw a white orb lying inside. There was even a note beside it. Legendary attribute, meditational clarity. Chu Kuangren was stunned. Then, a look of joy appeared on his face. Holy sh*t, I'm so lucky. He had just gotten the treasure locating skill a few days ago, and now he got a legendary attribute. It felt surreal to him. Withdraw the meditational clarity, Chu Kuangren muttered in his heart. Instantly, an incomparably mysterious feeling surged into his heart. Chu Kuangren closed his eyes and had an intoxicated look on his face. When he opened his eyes again, he felt that the whole world was different. It was clear. It was not a clearer vision, but a clearer understanding of the nature of the world. The meditational clarity was an attribute related to enlightenment. It made it easier for Chu Kuangren to quickly understand various techniques. His enlightenment was already very high, and now with the addition of the meditational clarity, it was hard to imagine how far he could go. After Chu Kuangren calmed down, he opened the door and opened his arms to receive the sun. Ah, what a beautiful day! Lan Yu, who came to wake Chu Kuangren up, was stunned. She was puzzled by her master's strange behavior early in the morning. Cough cough, Lan Yu, good morning. Good morning, master. The two of them had breakfast under the guidance of the servants from the school of White Lotus. After that, the White Lotus Maiden Sage acted as a tour guide and brought the two of them around as if they were on a sightseeing tour. The three of them came to a mountain wall. This mountain wall was as smooth as a mirror, and there was a huge mural engraved on it. It was a vivid and lifelike white lotus, shining brilliantly under the sunlight. It was a magnificent sight. There were many disciples from the school of White Lotus in front of the mountain wall. They were scratching their heads as they visualized the mural. Chu Kuangren even saw the White Lotus Bachelor Sage. What are they doing here? Chu Kuangren asked. Rumor has it that the White Lotus Sage ruler, the founder of the school of White Lotus, once gained enlightenment in front of this mountain wall and created the supreme sage ruler technique, the White Lotus Light of Purification. These disciples are trying to emulate the founder's enlightenment, the White Lotus Maiden Sage said. Can they emulate that too? Chu Kuangren was stunned. If it was that easy to emulate a sage ruler, the sages would have been running around the world by now. Brother Chu, this mountain wall is extraordinary. It indeed contains the Taoist rhymes left behind by our founder. The light of purification, one of the three main techniques of the school of White Lotus, was derived from this mountain wall. However, it's only a fragment, not even 1/10 of the original. The White Lotus Maiden Sage sighed. Chu Kuangren nodded. I see. His interest was piqued, so he went up to look at the mountain wall. When the people around him saw him, they started to discuss among themselves. Chu Kuangren, what's he doing here? Does he also want to gain enlightenment from the White Lotus Light of Purification left behind by our founder? What a joke. He's not even a member of the school of White Lotus. If he doesn't cultivate our techniques, how can he possibly gain enlightenment from it? Ever since our founder passed away, the White Lotus Light of Purification has been lost. Every generation of the school of White Lotus has tried to gain enlightenment from this mountain wall, but no one has succeeded. How can he do it? The White Lotus Bachelor Sage walked up and looked at Chu Kuangren. Why, Brother Chu, are you trying to gain enlightenment from the White Lotus Light of Purification? Chapter 78. How could Chu Kuangren not know what the White Lotus Bachelor Sage was thinking? However, he did not reject him. Sage Ruler Technique, White Lotus Light of Purification. Such a technique was right in front of him, waiting for him to comprehend it. Naturally, he would not let it go. Let's wait and see. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He then slowly walked to the front of the mountain wall and stared at the mural, his mind gradually immersed in it. When the White Lotus Sage saw this, he could not help but scoff. What a joke! Generations of prodigies from the school of White Lotus have tried to comprehend it for countless years, but none of them managed to comprehend the White Lotus Light of Purification. You, an outsider, want to comprehend it? The White Lotus Light of Purification could be said to be the source of all the cultivation techniques of the school of White Lotus. Generations of sky prides had to comprehend the techniques of the school of White Lotus to a certain extent before they could successfully comprehend the White Lotus Light of Purification. However, Chu Kuangren was not a disciple of the school of White Lotus and had never learned the techniques of the school of White Lotus, so how could he possibly understand the White Lotus light of purification? Do you really think you're omnipotent? The White Lotus saint sneered. The others also thought that it was impossible, but that did not stop them from enjoying the show. Each of them stared at Chu Kuangren, waiting for him to be defeated. However, they soon realized that something was amiss. As Chu Kuangren stared at the mural, an incredibly mysterious Taoist rhyme began to emanate from his body. There was a white light circulating around him that was gentle and holy. This Taoist rhyme, it's the world cleansing technique. The White Lotus Maiden Saint's expression changed slightly. She cultivated the world cleansing technique and was very familiar with this Taoist rhyme. However, why would Chu Kuangren have such a Taoist rhyme? What the hell was going on? The White Lotus Saintess was confused, and the others were even more confused. Chu Kuangren, what happened? The White Lotus Bachelor Sage's heart suddenly skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling about this. Just as he was about to step forward, Lan Yu took a step forward and stood in front of him. The master is meditating, no one is to disturb him. Lan Yu's gaze was cold as he swept his gaze across everyone present. A magnificent silver-white armor had already covered his body, and he was ready for battle. No one is allowed to disturb fellow Taoist Chu. The White Lotus Saintess said. Her eyes were filled with anticipation. She had tried to gain insights from this mural before, but she could not get any results no matter what. Could Chu Kuangren do it? In Chu Kuangren's eyes, the murals on the mountain wall were no longer just murals. The petals, veins, roots, and other parts of the White Lotus were filled with a mysterious Taoist rhyme. It was gentle, holy, and vast. Gradually, Chu Kuangren entered an ethereal state. Everything in the world disappeared at this moment. His heart was unprecedentedly clear and transparent, and his comprehension of the Tao rhyme was also incomparably clear. Meditative and Chu Kuangren, who had entered the meditational clarity state, quickly gained insight into the Taoist rhymes on the murals. A technique gradually emerged in his mind. In a trance, Chu Kuangren saw a middle-aged woman dressed in white sitting cross-legged in midair. She had a smile on her face as she formed a hand seal. White lotuses appeared around her, and each of them contained an exquisite Taoist rhyme. If Chu Kuangren was not mistaken, that person was the White Lotus Sage ruler. The outside world. The Taoist rhymes that circulated around Chu Kuangren's body became more and more mysterious, and the range of its influence also continued to expand until it covered more than half of the school of White Lotus's headquarters. Many experts in the main altar were alarmed. This Tao rhythm is the world-cleansing scripture? No, it's even more complete and mysterious than the world-cleansing scripture. Could it be? Let's go and have a look. How many years has it been? Is the school of White Lotus finally going to have a sky pride who can gain insight into the complete White Lotus light of purification? The heavens have blessed the school of White Lotus. One by one, the experts of the school of White Lotus rushed to the scene. However, when they saw Chu Kuangren standing in front of the murals with a mysterious Taoist rhyme, they were all dumbfounded. How could it be him? Maiden Sage, what's going on? One of the elders asked. The White Lotus Maiden Sage immediately told them what happened. Everyone looked at each other in disbelief when they heard that. What kind of joke was this? The school of White Lotus had been trying so hard to gain insight into the world-cleansing scripture for countless years to no avail. Were they going to let an outsider do it now? What should we do if Chu Kuangren manages to gain insight into the world-cleansing scripture? One of the elders asked doubtfully. Don't jump to conclusions yet. He's still in the midst of gaining insight. Perhaps he only managed to gain insight into the incomplete world-cleansing scripture, another elder said. The complete White Lotus light of purification and the incomplete world-cleansing scripture were two different concepts. If it was only the incomplete world-cleansing scripture, it would still be acceptable even though it was shocking. However, if it was the complete White Lotus mind-cleansing scripture, then they would be in deep trouble. The White Lotus light of purification was the source of all techniques in the school of White Lotus. Mastering the White Lotus light of purification would allow one to suppress all the techniques in the school of White Lotus. It would be fine if this technique was in the hands of the school of White Lotus, but if it was in the hands of the enemy, then the consequences would be unimaginable. To exaggerate a little, this was related to the survival of the entire orthodoxy. The group of elders stared at Chu Kuangren, hoping that he could only gain insight into the incomplete world-cleansing scripture and not the complete one. It was a torturous feeling. Some of them wanted to interrupt Chu Kuangren, but the two Honorable Supremes' auras in the void were staring at them, so they dared not do anything rash. Thus, at that moment, the space around Chu Kuangren began to ripple. A burst of dazzling white light erupted, and white lotuses began to form in the void. The phenomenon shot straight into the sky and covered the entire firmament. All the cultivators in the school of White Lotus could see it clearly. At that moment, everyone felt as if their cultivation base was being suppressed. Even the honorables were not spared. The few elders swallowed their saliva, their faces were filled with shock. The complete White Lotus light of purification. He really gained insight into the complete White Lotus light of purification. Oh my God! The entire school of White Lotus was shocked. The people who were near the school of White Lotus also saw this phenomenon. Look, it's the White Lotus light of purification. Could it be that the White Lotus Sage Ruler has manifested? Greetings, Sage Ruler. The Sage Ruler is a meritorious person. Countless worshippers who worshipped the White Lotus Sage Ruler knelt on the ground, praising the Sage Ruler for his meritorious deed. Within the school of White Lotus, a group of cultivators stared at Chu Kuangren in shock. All the techniques they had cultivated originated from the White Lotus light of purification. Now that Chu Kuangren had mastered this technique, the Taoist rhyme that manifested made them instinctively want to worship him. Oh my God, he really did it. The sky prides of the school of White Lotus have spent countless years trying to understand this technique, yet he managed to do it all by himself. Not only that, but he did it in such a short time. This guy is just too terrifying. The school of White Lotus, from the ordinary disciples to the bachelor sages, saintesses, and even the elders, were all dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren's state of mind slowly came out of the meditative clarity state, and the White Lotus light of purification around him gradually dissipated. As expected of a Sage Ruler technique. It's not any weaker than the Avarice technique. In fact, it might even be slightly stronger. It's almost at the threshold of an Emperor technique. Chu Kuangren murmured with a satisfied look on his face. Mastering this Sage Ruler technique would be a great help to him. Quick, surround him. An elder suddenly yelled. A group of honorables hurriedly went forward and surrounded Chu Kuangren. In the void, the seventh forefather and an old lady walked out. The aura of an honorable supreme emanated as they looked around coldly. Chapter 79. What are you doing? The seventh forefather and an old lady with a walking stick protected Chu Kuangren. The aura of an honorable supreme filled the air and locked onto the few honorables present. As long as they made any strange movements, he would immediately make a move. The few honorables did not dare to act recklessly due to the supreme honorable's domineering aura. They looked at Chu Kuangren with an incomparably complicated gaze. Even in their dreams, they hoped that someone would be able to comprehend the White Lotus light of purification. However, when this person wasn't a member of the White Lotus Society, they couldn't sit still anymore. This was related to the foundation of an entire orthodoxy. How could this be controlled by an outsider? All of you stop. At that moment, a female voice rang out in the air. A middle-aged woman dressed in white robes stepped through the air. Taoist runes flickered deep within Chu Kuangren's eyes. Bai Qing, the sect master of the school of White Lotus, a supreme honorable realm cultivator. Even the White Lotus school's high priestess was alarmed by him. This time, things seemed to have gotten a little out of hand. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Greetings, sect leader. Everyone hurriedly bowed to her. Meanwhile, the White Lotus leader walked up to Chu Kuangren and stared deeply into his eyes. Junior Chu, can you tell me the details of how you managed to comprehend the White Lotus light of purification? I just looked at the painting and comprehended it. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched uncontrollably. What kind of joke was this? The school of White Lotus had spent so much time and effort, yet they were still unable to comprehend it. Yet, they were able to comprehend it just by looking at the murals? Was there anything more devastating than this? These murals contain the Tao that my ancestor left behind. It is the White Lotus light of purification. Such a technique can only be understood and not taught. Therefore, other than my ancestor, no one else has been able to understand it. Little friend Chu's comprehension is amazing. It's admirable. The White Lotus hierarch sighed. Even though she was a little disappointed, she knew that a technique like the White Lotus light of purification was not something that could be obtained by force. Young friend Chu, I have a request that I hope you can agree to. The White Lotus High Priestess suddenly said. Senior, please speak. I would like to invite you to be the White Lotus School's sage. The crowd burst into an uproar. Let Chu Kuangren become the School of White Lotus Bachelor Sage? How can this be? What is Sect Master thinking about? The White Lotus Bachelor Sage's expression changed, and he immediately objected. Leader, you can't do that. This Chu Kuangren has secretly learned the School of White Lotus's Sage Ruler technique. We must investigate this matter. How can we allow him to be the White Lotus Bachelor Sage? He had a grudge against Chu Kuangren, so naturally he did not want to see Chu Kuangren gain power. However, the leader of the White Lotus cult said, this mountain wall has been here for 20,000 years. Anyone can come here to comprehend it, but whether or not they can comprehend it depends on their own abilities. How can you say that you stole it? Furthermore, young friend Chu is talented and has comprehended the White Lotus light of purification. You are more than qualified to be the White Lotus sect's holy son. The White Lotus leader had already made up her mind. She stared straight at Chu Kuangren. At the side, the other elders didn't know what they were thinking, but they didn't stop them. The implications of the White Lotus light of purification were too great. If they could not kill Chu Kuangren, then they could only try their best to get closer to him. Obviously, the price of the former was too high. Chu Kuangren was the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect and the fiancé of the Royal Azure dynasty. If Chu Kuangren were to be killed, the two sage orthodoxies would definitely not let the matter rest. Compared to the former, the latter was much simpler. Turn him into one of their own. That way, they would not have to worry about the White Lotus light of purification turning on the school of White Lotus. They would have another talented bachelor sage. Killing two birds with one stone. The group of elders silently praised the White Lotus leader in their hearts. I'm afraid of your kind intentions, leader, but I'm already the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect. I can't agree to this. Chu Kuangren said. You're worried about the Black Heaven sect. Don't worry, I'll talk to your honorable teacher about this. Stay here for a few more days. If you have any requests, I'll try my best to fulfill them. The White Lotus leader smiled. Then all right. Chu Kuangren nodded. He did not plan to leave immediately, so staying for a few more days would not hurt. Black Heaven sect. Honorable Xian Qi was sitting in front of a stone tablet. This stone tablet was the Tao tablet, and on it was the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique that Chu Kuangren had created in the library. Ever since Chu Kuangren entered the world, Honorable Xian Qi had been studying this sword technique day and night. Although he had not fully mastered it, he had gained some insights. Every time he studied it, he would sigh. Who would have thought that this unparalleled offensive sage ruler technique was created by a young junior? Every time he thought of this, a sense of pride would grow in his heart. Such an outstanding Chu Kuangren was his disciple. He was the one who named this sage ruler technique. Suddenly, Honorable Xian Qi's face showed a little surprise. Not far away, a white lotus came with the wind and landed in front of him, turning into a beautiful woman in a white robe. Honorable Xian Qi, long time no see. The woman was the White Lotus leader. Oh, what a rare occasion for the White Lotus leader to come all the way here to find me. What's the matter? Honorable Xian Qi smiled faintly. They were all cultivators of the same generation and had many interactions when they were young. Now that they met again, It was like old friends catching up. It's about Chu Kuangren, the White Lotus leader said lightly. Honorable Xian Qi's expression turned serious. Speak. Then, the White Lotus leader told him about how Chu Kuangren was studying the White Lotus light of purification in the school of White Lotus and how she wanted him to become a bachelor sage. After listening, even Honorable Xian Qi was a little dumbfounded. Then he laughed out loud. Good. You are indeed my disciple. You are indeed extraordinary and talented. The White Lotus leader rolled her eyes, but in her heart, she was a little envious that Honorable Xian Qi had such a disciple. It would be great if she was the one who accepted this disciple. All right, let's get down to business. Chu Kuangren's talent is too terrifying. Do you really have the confidence to protect him with just the Black Heaven sect and the Royal Azure dynasty? Why don't you add the school of White Lotus into the mix? The White Lotus leader said calmly. Let me think. What else is there to think about? This matter will only benefit him. With our 3 great sage orthodoxies protecting him, at least in the Azure Dragon domain, no one can touch him. I need to talk to the Royal Azure Dynasty King about this. Honorable Xian Qi contacted the Royal Azure Dynasty King for a discussion. In the end, the leaders of the 2 orthodoxies agreed to the White Lotus leader's request. With Chu Kuangren as the link, the 3 great sage orthodoxies could form an alliance to a certain extent, seeking space for common development. I'll talk to Kuangren about this. All right, I'll take my leave then. After the discussion, the White Lotus leader's spiritual thought immediately dissipated. Honorable Xian Qi remained where he was and lamented, 3 great sage orthodoxies are protecting a single person. This is something that has never happened before. Chu Kuangren suddenly received a message from his Honorable Xian Qi in the School of White Lotus, asking if he was willing to become the School of White Lotus Bachelor Sage. You don't have to do anything. For now, you just need to be a nominal member. You can continue to train, Honorable Xian Qi said. Sure. Chu Kuangren nodded and agreed. Having the title of a bachelor sage and having the protection of 3 great sage orthodoxies was a good thing that many people could only dream of. Since Honorable Xian Qi had agreed, Chu Kuangren had no reason to refuse. Just like that, besides being the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect and the fiancé of the Royal Azure dynasty, Chu Kuangren now had another title. Chapter 80. News of Chu Kuangren becoming a bachelor sage spread throughout the school of White Lotus in no time at all, shocking countless disciples. Before this, they had only heard of Chu Kuangren's name, and it was not positive news either. Things like declaring war on the entire world, destroying the entire White Cloud City Lord residence, and plundering the secret realm. Everyone thought that Chu Kuangren was an evil person. Yet now, this evil person had become their bachelor sage? That was just too dramatic. I wonder what the leader and the others are thinking about Chu Kuangren becoming our bachelor sage. This is just too reckless. You guys don't know this, but Chu Kuangren has gained insights into the White Lotus light of purification left behind by our ancestors. It's impossible not to make him a bachelor sage. That's right, this is just too magical. Say, so many sky prides in the school of White Lotus have failed to gain insights into the White Lotus light of purification, so why did Chu Kuangren do it? That's right. Countless disciples in the school of White Lotus were discussing among themselves. A few female cultivators gathered together, and one of them said, "Do you guys think Chu Kuangren looks like a burly man?" "I don't think so. I heard that he looks like an immortal." "That's just a rumor. Nowadays, anyone who looks slightly better will be praised to death," the female cultivator said nonchalantly. At that moment, the crowd gasped. "Look, it's Chu Kuangren. Extraordinary indeed, extraordinary and refined." The female cultivators looked over and saw the immortal-like Chu Kuangren walking past them with Lan Yu in tow. "Wow, he's just like the rumors say." "No, he's even better looking than the rumors say. He looks like an immortal descending from the heavens." "That's right, he's so handsome." The female cultivator who belittled Chu Kuangren earlier stood there in a daze. She only regained her senses after Chu Kuangren had walked far away. "I hereby announce that from today onward, I fully support Chu Kuangren as our bachelor sage." I'll fight anyone who disagrees. Me too. Chu Kuangren brought Lan Yu around the school of White Lotus, and unknowingly he had gained a lot of fans. In the school of White Lotus's main hall, the White Lotus leader looked at the luxurious white robe in front of her and smiled in satisfaction. She then turned to Chu Kuangren and said, "These are the clothes to be worn during the conferral ceremony. Take a look and see if there are any areas that you would like to improve." "It's up to you, senior." Chu Kuangren chuckled. In any case, he was handsome and looked good in anything. "Yes, after the crowning ceremony, we will announce it to the world. At that time, the 3 great sage orthodoxies will protect you." The leader of the White Lotus cult smiled faintly as a hint of surprise flashed through her eyes. 3 great sage orthodoxies were protecting one person. This kind of thing could be said to be unprecedented. "Thank you, sect leader." Soon, the school of White Lotus conferring ceremony arrived. In the capital of the Full Moon Kingdom, there was a high platform. This was the place where the conferment ceremony would be held. The Holy Sun would be conferred in front of countless believers. On the high platform, the king of the Great Moon Kingdom and the leader of the White Lotus School sat on one side. Below the platform, countless believers filled the streets. Everyone was looking forward to the appearance of the new saint. Rumor has it that the new saint has gained insights into the cultivation techniques left behind by the sage ruler. I wonder if that's true. I'm really looking forward to it. Of course it's true. 2 days ago, there were white lotuses all over the sky. It's not like you guys didn't see it. How can that phenomenon be faked? That's great. Yeah, after so many years, someone has finally gained insights into the techniques left behind by the sage ruler. The sage ruler finally has a successor. The crowd was discussing fervently. Due to the phenomenon of white lotuses all over the sky 2 days ago, the crowd's enthusiasm for this crowning ceremony was unprecedentedly high. On the high platform, the king of the Full Moon Kingdom asked curiously, "Leader, did this saint really gain insights into the techniques left behind by the sage ruler?" The leader of the White Lotus School nodded slightly. Upon receiving the answer, the king of the Full Moon Kingdom was first shocked, then overjoyed. He exclaimed, "The sage ruler finally has a successor." "Yes, he's an outstanding young man." The leader of the White Lotus School smiled. The king of the Full Moon Kingdom was shocked. Even the White Lotus Maiden Sage did not have such an evaluation from the leader of the White Lotus School. "They're here, they're here." At that moment, a cry came from the crowd. At the end of the street, 2 figures were slowly walking towards them. They were a man and a woman. At the front was Chu Kuangren. He was dressed in a luxurious white robe with a jade crown on his head and a pair of white boots inlaid with jade on his feet. His aura was ethereal like that of an immortal. Behind him was Lan Yu. She was dressed in a silver-white armor with her wings spread out. Holding a scepter of light in her hand, she exuded a holy aura. At that moment, the entire street was silent. There were only these 2 people between heaven and earth. "Play the music," the leader of the White Lotus School said from the high platform. On both sides of the street, there were people blowing into a horn, and a solemn sound echoed throughout the sky. At that moment, another phenomenon appeared. An incredibly mysterious Taoist rhyme emanated from Chu Kuangren's body. With every step he took, a white lotus bloomed beneath his feet. With every step he took, a lotus bloomed. The sage ruler's white lotus light of purification. It's the white lotus light of purification. Could he be the reincarnation of the sage ruler? Greetings, Bachelor Sage. Countless followers of the White Lotus Sage ruler immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Chu Kuangren the moment they saw the white lotus light of purification. At that moment, it was as if Chu Kuangren was the reincarnation of the White Lotus Sage ruler who single-handedly suppressed the demonic beasts of hell and saved billions of lives 20,000 years ago. Everyone worshipped him like a god. Behind Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu stared at his back with a fanatical look in her eyes, just like the other followers. To her, Chu Kuangren should be high and mighty, respected and worshipped by billions of people because he was her god. The White Lotus Maiden Sage and a few other bachelor sages watched from afar. They looked at each other with a bitter smile on their faces. They did not have such a scene when they were conferred their titles. We're all bachelor sages, but there's no doubt that Chu Kuangren's position is much higher than ours, one of the bachelor sages said. Who asked him to gain insights into the White Lotus light of purification? Maiden Sage, aren't you afraid that Chu Kuangren will be a threat to you now that he has mastered the White Lotus light of purification? One of the bachelor sages looked at the White Lotus Maiden Sage and asked curiously. The White Lotus Maiden Sage shook her head. He won't. Why not? The leader conferred him as a bachelor sage mainly because he has mastered the White Lotus light of purification. However, he's still the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect, so the leader won't give him too much power. The White Lotus Maiden Sage knew very well that although Chu Kuangren was a bachelor sage, he was still different from the pure disciples of the school of White Lotus. Besides, I don't think he'll care about the school of White Lotus. With his qualifications, he'll have a bigger stage in the future. The White Lotus Maiden Sage said. Chu Kuangren's qualifications were too amazing. If someone was destined to become an emperor in this era, then Chu Kuangren had a high chance of becoming one. At least, he was much bigger than them. The school of White Lotus was nothing in Chu Kuangren's eyes in the future. Clinging to the school of White Lotus would only bring more harm than good. Chu Kuangren walked across the street and arrived at the high platform. The king of the Full Moon Kingdom quickly went up to him and looked at Chu Kuangren in amazement. Bachelor Sage, you're indeed extraordinary. All right, let's begin the conferment. The White Lotus Maiden took out a lotus-shaped crown and placed it on Chu Kuangren's head. Then, she announced to the disciples below, I hereby announce that from today onwards, Chu Kuangren is the school of White Lotus Bachelor Sage. Greetings, Bachelor Sage. Greetings, Bachelor Sage. Chapter 81. After the ceremony, Chu Kuangren left the school of White Lotus and continued his journey to the next sage orthodoxy. Within 2 days of his departure, news of him becoming the White Lotus Bachelor Sage had spread throughout the Azure Dragon domain, shocking countless cultivators and orthodoxies. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chu Kuangren had just become the fiancé of the royal Azure dynasty a few days ago. How did he become the White Lotus Bachelor Sage in such a short time? What the hell was going on? What was going on? The world was changing so fast that they could not wrap their heads around it. Can someone tell me what's going on? How did Chu Kuangren become the White Lotus Bachelor Sage? Out of the 8 great sage orthodoxies in the Azure Dragon domain, almost half of them are now protecting him. My God, this is unbelievable. What the hell happened in the past few days? D***, what kind of charm does this Chu Kuangren have? Why are all these sage orthodoxies flocking to him? 3 great sage orthodoxies are protecting a youngster on his path of cultivation. Hey, do they have to be so ostentatious? I'm impressed. This is what a supreme sky pride looks like. In the Azure Dragon domain, be it the ordinary cultivators, sky prides, or the sage orthodoxies, everyone was shocked by the news. Some of the orthodoxies suddenly realized that the 3 great sage orthodoxies were protecting Chu Kuangren. This was some sort of alliance. Chu Kuangren was still young, yet he could already control the power structure of the Azure Dragon domain. What would happen when he grew up? At that moment, many orthodoxies could not stay calm anymore. Inside the sacred lands of Serene Wisdom, the current Lord of Serene Wisdom, Master Taoist Ling Hai, had just received the news that Chu Kuangren had become a bachelor sage. A hint of worry flashed across his eyes. This kid is too talented. Now that he has the protection of 3 great sage orthodoxies, his rise is unstoppable. If we don't keep him in check, the sacred lands of Serene Wisdom will not be able to become an emperor in this world. At that thought, Master Taoist Ling Hai's eyes flashed with unwillingness. He looked towards a mountain in the depths of the sacred lands. Perhaps it's time to awaken him, the sky pride from tens of thousands of years ago. There had been no emperors in the past 150,000 years, and in these 150,000 years, there had been countless sky prides, many of whom were extremely talented supreme Taoist physiques. However, these people were born in the Dharma ending era, where the great Tao was not apparent. They had no fate with the throne, so they were unwilling to give up. They sealed themselves and quietly waited for the great battle that would give them the opportunity to become emperor. Spirit Illusion Holy Land had such a sleeping genius before. It was just that Chu Kuangren had not been awakened all this while. Now that Chu Kuangren was so talented, he needed someone to go up against him. That prodigy was the best candidate. In Xiang Valley, the Purple Sun Valley Master looked at Lin Badian, took a deep breath and asked, "Badian, are you sure you want to do this?" A look of determination flashed across Lin Badian's eyes. Chu Kuangren is too terrifying. If I don't stake everything on this, I won't stand a chance against him. Alright, take care of yourself. Ziyang Valley Master sighed softly. Then, he waved his hand and opened up a passage in the void. Colorful flames surged inside. A terrifying temperature filled the air. Lin Badian looked at the passageway and walked in with determination. When the other orthodoxies heard that the three great sage orthodoxies were protecting Chu Kuangren, they more or less responded accordingly. However, Chu Kuangren was not aware of any of that. At this time, he was on his way to the Taishu Temple. Another thing worth mentioning was that he now had 3 protectors by his side instead of 2. Needless to say, the extra one was from the school of White Lotus. He could not help but sigh. If he had a secondary card, the 3 of them could play fight the landlord. On the ferry boat, Chu Kuangren closed his eyes and pondered. A large number of cultivation techniques appeared in his mind. Most of them were sword techniques, but a few were techniques from the school of White Lotus. He integrated those techniques one by one into the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. He had already decided to walk the path of the single sword technique. Moreover, he had already begun to take shape. All he needed to do now was to perfect his understanding of techniques and continue to integrate those insights into the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. Perhaps one day, this technique could be upgraded into an emperor technique. Chu Kuangren suddenly exclaimed. He gestured for Lan Yu to stop the ferry boat and sensed for a while. Just a moment ago, he had a strange feeling. It was a feeling bestowed upon him by the treasure locating skill, which gave him a keen sense of treasure. Activating the treasure locating skill, Chu Kuangren sensed his surroundings. Found it. Chu Kuangren pointed in a certain direction and drove the ferry boat towards it. In a certain mountain range, 2 terrifying auras collided with each other. Every wisp of aura released was enough to tear apart a mountain or a river. Both of them were strong cultivators. Their bodies were surging with extremely powerful Taoist rhymes and spiritual power, and the surrounding space was shaking violently because of them. At the center of their battle was a mountain peak, and on top of the peak was an extraordinary supreme elixir. Although the battle between the 2 was intense, they were trying their best to avoid the shockwaves from their battle affecting the supreme elixir. "Old man, this sage supreme elixir is mine," one of the cultivators whose body was covered in lightning bolts said coldly. It was a sage supreme elixir. Although it was not as powerful as a sage supreme elixir, it was still much stronger than most honorable supreme elixirs. With this supreme elixir, he would be able to break through to the late-stage honorable realm. You want me to give it to you? No way. Others might be afraid of the Thunder Falcon tribe, but not the Taishu Temple. The one who was facing off against the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable was an old man in a Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk. There's no point in talking. Kill. Both parties clashed once again. Both of them were mid-stage honorable realm cultivators, so it was hard to tell who was stronger. Blood lightning. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable let out a loud roar. The lightning on his body was instantly dyed red, and a violent Taoist rhyme spread in all directions. This was a powerful secret technique of the Thunder Falcon tribe. Although it was a self-destructive technique, it allowed the user's power to skyrocket. After using the blood lightning, the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable quickly suppressed the old man with the horsetail whisk. With a single punch, the old man was sent flying hundreds of feet away. The violent blood-colored lightning continued to corrode the old man's body. However, the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable knew that this technique was not enough to kill his opponent, and the blood lightning could not be used for a long period of time. Otherwise, the side effects would be too severe. He dispersed the blood lightning, and while the old man with the horsetail whisk was injured, he quickly dashed towards the Sage Supreme Elixir on the mountain peak. His eyes were filled with joy. This Supreme Elixir is mine. However, right at that moment, a domineering purple sword ray suddenly descended from the sky. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable's expression changed slightly, and he quickly dodged it. The sword ray landed on the ground and exploded, instantly creating a huge sword scar that was 100 meters long. The remnant sword chi swept out in all directions. Such an attack was no weaker than an honorable. Who is it? The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable's expression was extremely gloomy. It was not easy for him to get his hands on the Supreme Elixir, so where did this troublemaker come from? A white-robed figure descended from the sky with a silver-haired lady by his side. Both of them were extremely beautiful. It was Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu, who had found him using the treasure locating skill. Fellow Taoist, I'm sorry, but I can see that this Supreme Elixir is quite extraordinary, and it seems to be fated with me. I hope you can part with it. Chapter 82. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator's face sank when he heard Chu Kuangren's words. The appearance of the precious medicine is extraordinary. Is it fated with you? There are many extraordinary treasures in the world. Could it be that all of them are fated with you? Nonsense. I don't care where you're from. You're courting death if you dare to stop me from getting my medicine. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable warrior's body surged with a domineering lightning-based Taoist rhyme as he charged forward in the blink of an eye. Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes and activated his Eye of Revelation. In an instant, he saw through his opponent's bone structure, cultivation level, and so on. So you're from the Thunder Falcon tribe. With the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand, Chu Kuangren did not dodge or evade the attack. Instead, he swung his sword at the incoming attack and a terrifying sword ray instantly shot out. The sword light collided with the lightning, and a terrifying force swept out in all directions. The void trembled, and the surrounding mountains exploded. Chu Kuangren was pushed back a few feet by that force. The combat strength of an honorable realm cultivator is indeed extraordinary. Chu Kuangren rubbed his numb arm with an eager look in his eyes. With his current strength, ordinary battle monarchs were no match for him, and only martial honorables could challenge him. This guy's cultivation level? The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator's expression changed. It was not because Chu Kuangren's cultivation level was too high. On the contrary, an insightful emptiness realm cultivator was far inferior to him. He was a venerable, 2 great realms higher than his opponent, but this insightful void realm cultivator's battle prowess was too terrifying. He went head-on against an Exalt realm expert and remained unscathed? Where did this terrifying prodigy come from? Hold on. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator seemed to have thought of something as he stared at Chu Kuangren with a hint of fear in his eyes. Such extraordinary looks and temperament, coupled with this level of cultivation, you must be the Black Heaven Sect's elder's senior brother, Chu Kuangren. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator exclaimed. Chu Kuangren lifted his sword. Not bad. His characteristics were too obvious, so it wasn't surprising that someone had guessed it. Let's go. After learning of Chu Kuangren's identity, the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator no longer had the intention to fight him. All he wanted to do was to leave as soon as possible. He was not afraid of Chu Kuangren. After all, his opponent was just a Paradise Realm cultivator. However, he was extremely afraid of the Tao Protector behind him. That was an honorable Supreme Being. Venerable, Supreme Being, the difference of a single word was like the difference between heaven and earth. Not to mention supreme honorable beings. I'm not asking you to leave just yet. Taoist rhymes circulated around Chu Kuangren's body, and a large amount of sword chi emerged from the void, forming into a long sword chi pillar. Tao Physique Phenomenon, 9 Heaven Sword Prison, open. After Chu Kuangren had integrated spatial energy into the sword prison, its sealing ability had greatly increased. Even an honorable would not be able to escape easily. Chu Kuangren, I don't even want that supreme elixir anymore. What else do you want? The Thunder Hawk Honorable said angrily. Chu Kuangren shrugged. Nothing much. I just want to kill you or be killed by you. As he finished speaking, the Taoist rhyme on his body circulated, and the sword of the heavenly path and the green lotus sword melody materialized. A vast sword-based Taoist rhyme surged out like a tidal wave. During this period of time, he had improved too quickly. Even a young emperor could not withstand more than a few blows from him. He was almost invincible among the younger generation. He needed an opponent to test his strength, and it was obvious that the Thunder Falcon Tribe's honorable warrior was a good candidate. Do you really think I'm a pushover? Seeing that Chu Kuangren did not back down, the Thunder Falcon Tribe's honorable warrior was infuriated and attacked again. A domineering lightning-based Taoist rhyme surrounded his body, and streaks of silver-white lightning danced in the air, striking towards Chu Kuangren one after another. Each strike contained unparalleled power. Even young Emperor Lei Ao, who was killed by Chu Kuangren in the past, could not compare. That was the power of an honorable. Just in time. Instead of retreating, Chu Kuangren charged forward. He activated his 3 Taoist physique transformations, and the 4 supreme foundation levels within his body radiated with divine light. With a slash of his sword, a terrifying sword ray engulfed the heavens and the earth. It was the purest form of attack intent, the peerless Taoist rhyme that could destroy all techniques with a single sword. Wherever the sword ray passed, countless streaks of lightning were shattered. Not far away, the Taoist-robed old man who had just recovered was shocked by the scene before him. What a terrifying young man. A Paradise Realm cultivator was evenly matched with an honorable cultivator. He had never seen such a thing before. Boom, boom, boom. The purple sword ray and the silver-white lightning clashed one after another, and the incredibly powerful Taoist rhymes intertwined and collided in the air. The terrifying power caused the surrounding mountains and rivers to explode and shatter. It was the first time the 3 Taoist protectors had seen Chu Kuangren go all out. Even they could not help but be shocked. He's too strong. The Bachelor Sage's strength is too strong. He's only a Paradise Realm cultivator now. Once he ascends to the Battle Monarch or even the Honorable Realm, what kind of terrifying combat strength will he have? In the dark void, the white-robed middle-aged woman from the school of White Lotus said in shock. Yes, the fiancé's combat strength is indeed unprecedented. In this era's Emperor's Path battle, he'll surely come out on top. The old woman from the Royal Azure Dynasty said. The 7th forefather looked proud. Of course. Look at him, he's the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect. He's also the fiancé of the Royal Azure Dynasty. And also the bachelor sage of the school of White Lotus. The old woman and the middle-aged woman said in dissatisfaction. Outside the void, the battle between Chu Kuangren and the Thunder Falcon Tribe's honorable cultivator had reached its climax. Seeing that he could not defeat Chu Kuangren after so long, the Thunder Falcon Tribe's honorable cultivator gritted his teeth and once again activated the blood lightning technique. Amidst the explosion, a violent and boundless blood-colored lightning exploded. Chu Kuangren, die! The Thunder Falcon Tribe's honorable cultivator roared. Then, the lightning intertwined to form a horrifying blood-colored killing net. The terrifying lightning-based Taoist rhyme locked onto Chu Kuangren, making it difficult for him to evade. The 3 Taoist protectors who were secretly guarding him were ready to attack at any time. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's longsword was suspended in the air. He then formed a mysterious hand sign and an incredibly vast Taoist rhyme appeared. A white light gushed out from Chu Kuangren's body, and a white lotus appeared in the void. It was the white lotus light of purification. The white lotus surrounded the void, and the blood-colored lightning that landed on the white lotus disintegrated into spiritual qi and dissipated. How is this possible? What kind of technique is this? The Thunder Falcon Tribe's honorable cultivator was shocked. In the void, the middle-aged woman's eyes were filled with passion. This is the White Lotus Sage ruler's white lotus light of purification. Legend has it that this technique can disintegrate spiritual energy, disintegrate Taoist rhymes, and purify everything. It has an unparalleled defensive ability. I can't believe that the bachelor sage can already use this technique to such a high level of proficiency after only gaining insights into it a few days ago. It's too powerful, too powerful. The old lady and the seventh forefather were shocked as well. The power of the white lotus light of purification was indeed amazing. No wonder no one had managed to gain insights into it for so many years. It was too mysterious. Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. While the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator was still in shock, Chu Kuangren swung his sword and a violent sword ray instantly gushed out. Wherever the sword ray passed, the void trembled. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator hurriedly unleashed a blood-colored lightning to block it, but he was still heavily injured by that attack. D****. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator panicked. However, Chu Kuangren's attacks were endless. He had the White Lotus Light of Purification for defense and the Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique for offense. His combat strength was unparalleled. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator was forced to retreat and was continuously injured. When it was about time, Chu Kuangren suddenly opened his palm, and a pitch-black vortex appeared in the middle of his palm like the mouth of a giant beast. Gluttonous devouring technique. Chapter 83. The Gluttonous Devouring Technique. This was a sage ruler technique that Chu Kuangren obtained from the Black Light Sage. It was extremely powerful and could open up a refining space within one's body to suck in a cultivator and refine their flesh and blood essences. Chu Kuangren could use the gluttonous devouring technique against an ordinary cultivator. However, against an honorable cultivator, he needed to beat him half to death first. Otherwise, he would not have the confidence to refine it with his current cultivation level. The refining space within the gluttonous devouring technique was pitch black. The moment the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator entered it, he suddenly felt an extreme sense of fear. Following that, a powerful refining force erupted from the surroundings and the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator's flesh and blood were continuously disintegrated. What kind of strange technique is this? Oh no. If he was at his peak, the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator could still handle this refining force. However, he was now severely injured and extremely weak. In the face of this refining force, he was like a fish on a chopping board. Waves of flesh and blood essences flowed through the gluttonous devouring technique's refining space towards Chu Kuangren's limbs and bones before finally converging at the spiritual mound within his body. The four supreme foundation levels of Taoist foundation levels, Golden Core, Nascent Soul, and Purple Palace Realm all radiated with a dazzling divine light. The flesh and blood essences were absorbed by the four supreme foundation levels and converted into pure spiritual power, expanding his spiritual mound and increasing Chu Kuangren's cultivation level. The flesh and blood essences of an honorable cultivator had given Chu Kuangren a significant boost. It had directly elevated him to the peak of the Paradise Realm late stage. This was also because his foundation level was too strong. If it was an ordinary cultivator who absorbed this flesh and blood essences, their cultivation level would have increased even more. Of course, the increase in combat strength was not small at all. Chu Kuangren licked his lips. What a powerful technique. With this gluttonous devouring technique, every cultivator in this world is a supreme medicine. At that thought, Chu Kuangren shuddered. He quickly extinguished that dangerous thought and stabilized his Taoist core. Although the technique was powerful, if one did not control it, one would eventually reap what they sowed, damaging one's luck and even becoming a demon. It was a human controlling the technique, not an illegal one. After killing the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator, Chu Kuangren went to the top of the mountain and plucked the sage-grade treasure before placing it into his yin and yang ring. Not far away, although the old Taoist was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. Putting aside the fact that Chu Kuangren was incredibly powerful, even the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator had died in his hands. Just the name Chu Kuangren alone was enough to strike fear into anyone's heart, because this person had the backing of 3 sage orthodoxies. The old Taoist walked up to Chu Kuangren and bowed. I'm Ling Zheng from the Purple Void lineage of the Taishu Temple. Greetings, Brother Chu. Since Ling Zheng had addressed Chu Kuangren as a fellow Taoist, it was obvious that he had regarded Chu Kuangren as an equal since he was able to kill the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator. Thinking of this, Ling Zheng could not help but sigh. With the protection of 3 great sage orthodoxies and such tyrannical talent, this child's future was limitless. Not to mention becoming an emperor, it was almost certain that he would become a sage. "Greetings, Brother Ling," Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Since the other party addressed him as a fellow Taoist, then he did not refuse. At the same time, he was slightly surprised. He did not expect the other party to be someone from the Void Temple. Wasn't that a coincidence? He just so happened to want to pay a visit to the Void Temple. Chu Kuangren then told Ling Zheng about his thoughts. "The Void Temple welcomes Brother Chu for a visit." Ling Zheng smiled and led Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu to the Void Temple. The Void Temple was located deep in the mountains, and it was rarely visited by humans. Today, the sound of a bell reverberated in the Void Temple, so loud that even the clouds could be seen. This bell signified the arrival of an esteemed guest. In front of the mountain gate, a few disciples were eagerly waiting. Not long after, an old Taoist arrived with a man and a woman. Upon seeing this, the few disciples quickly went up to greet them. "Greetings, Elder Ling, Brother Chu, and Brother Lan." The few disciples had received news that Ling Zheng had brought Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu for a visit. Where are the temple lord and the others? They're already waiting in the main hall. The few disciples led Ling Zheng and the other 2 up the mountain. Along the way, the few of them secretly glanced at Chu Kuangren. After all, there were too many rumors about this sky pride. More importantly, each and every one of them was so earth-shattering. They were too curious. They were all of the same age, so why was Chu Kuangren so outstanding? Inside the main hall of the Void Temple, the current Taishu Temple Lord and a few elders were gathered together, waiting for Chu Kuangren's arrival. After all, these people were all honorables, and the Taishu Temple Lord was an honorable supreme. Yet, they were all waiting for a young junior. If word of this got out, it would shock every cultivator in the world. However, the current Chu Kuangren was no longer someone they could ignore. The Taishu Temple Lord smiled faintly when he saw the person in white walking towards him from outside the main hall. Everyone says that the eldest senior brother of the Shen sect is extraordinary. Now that I've seen him, he really does live up to his reputation. "You flatter me, Temple Lord." Chu Kuangren bowed. "Ling Zheng has already told me the purpose of Brother Chu's visit. Tomorrow, I'll arrange for someone to sit and spar with Brother Chu." "Thank you, Temple Lord." "Elder Wang, Brother Chu has come from afar. Please bring him to the guest room to rest," the Taishu Temple Lord said to an elder beside him. "All right." After Chu Kuangren left, the Taishu Temple Lord had a serious look on his face. One of them is an honorable supreme, and the other 2 are at least honorables. The rumors are true. The 3 great sage orthodoxies are protecting this kid's path of cultivation. This is truly shocking. This Chu Kuangren is too talented. This person's combat strength is enough to kill an honorable. Ling Zheng then told them how Chu Kuangren killed the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, their faces filled with shock. Being able to fight a battle monarch realm cultivator while still in the paradise realm is enough for him to be called a young emperor. What kind of sky pride is this? It's just too terrifying. This person can't be measured with common sense. Even Wuchen might not be able to fight against him. The crowd in the main hall discussed among themselves. Chu Kuangren was led to a guest room by Elder Wang. "Brother Chu, there's a bell in the guest room. If you need anything, just ring it and someone will come." Elder Wang smiled. "Thank you. You're a guest from afar. You're welcome." Elder Wang then left. Chu Kuangren entered the guest room. There were a few rooms inside, and there was a bell hanging on the door. He shook it curiously. A crisp and pleasant ring was heard. Not long after, a young Taoist with his hair tied up came in and asked Chu Kuangren what he needed. "Little Taoist, I'm new here. I wonder if you can tell me about any interesting places in the Taishu Temple." "Of course." The little Taoist then told Chu Kuangren about the place. Halfway through, The little Taoist suddenly noticed Chu Kuangren's gaze outside the door. Curious, he looked over too. A young Taoist with a delicate face in a green Taoist robe was slowly walking in. He had a calm temperament about him. The little Taoist was shocked to see this person. He then walked up to him and bowed. Greetings, senior brother Wuchen. Wuchen Zi was a legendary name in the Taishu Temple. He was also the most outstanding sky pride among the younger generation in the Taishu Temple. He was also the only cultivator to be recognized by the Taishu seal in the past thousands of years. Wuchen Zi nodded slightly. He then looked at Chu Kuangren and bowed. Greetings, brother Chu. Greetings, brother Wuchen. Chapter 84. Wuchen Zi, Taishu Temple's lead disciple, Paradise Realm late stage, cultivates sage techniques, Taishu technique, Sunlight Breaker, Taishu Temple's genius, wields sage ruler weapon, Taishu seal. Information about Wuchen Zi appeared in front of Chu Kuangren one by one. He had heard of Wuchen Zi's name before he came, but he heard that he had been in closed-door meditation. That was why he had never seen him in the martial arts contest or the secret realm exploration. Today was his first time seeing him. Someone once said that if Wuchen Zi had not been in closed-door meditation, Guchanga's path of invincibility would not have reached the Black Heaven sect and would have been defeated in the Taishu Temple. That showed that he was not a simple person. Through Chu Kuangren's eye of revelation, Wuchen Zi's overall strength was indeed much higher than Guchanga's. Although I've lived in the Taishu Temple for a long time, I've heard of your name. That's why I'm here today. Wuchen Zi smiled. I wonder if you're satisfied. The beauty of an immortal is truly admirable. Yes, that's the truth. Chu Kuangren nodded and admitted it without hesitation. Brother Chu, I've heard of your purpose in coming to the Taishu Temple. Are you trying to imitate Guchanga? Back then, Guchanga challenged the Taoists of the other sage orthodoxies in order to cultivate his heart of invincibility. To others, Chu Kuangren's visit to the orthodoxies was similar to Guchanga's. Hey, brother Wuchen, you're wrong. That Guchanga made a big fuss and caused an uproar in the world. I'm much more low-key than him. Besides, I'm just discussing Tao and Dharma. I won't fight. Chu Kuangren laughed. Wuchen Zi had a strange look on his face. Brother Chu, you visited the school of White Lotus, right? Then, news of you becoming a White Lotus bachelor sage spread. It was a huge sensation. Brother Chu, you call this low-key? Chu Kuangren shrugged helplessly. Would you believe me if I told you that it was just an accident, brother Wuchen? Who knew that the White Lotus light of purification was so important to the school of White Lotus that it was related to the entire Orthodoxy's cultivation foundation? It doesn't matter if I believe you or not. What's important is that I'm here to visit you, brother Chu, to spar with you. As Wuchen Zi spoke, the little Taoist beside him jumped in fright. Senior brother Wuchen wanted to spar with Chu Kuangren? Sure. This was Chu Kuangren's purpose for coming here, so he had no reason to refuse. Please. Wuchen Zi flicked his sleeves, and 2 praying mats appeared before him. He sat on one of them, and the Taoist rhyme on his body gradually emanated. Chu Kuangren sat right across him. The proud sons of heaven of the present age sat down and discussed the Tao. The little Taoist beside them was so excited that he couldn't control himself, but he didn't dare to make a sound and disturb them. The 2 Taoist rhymes began to clash within the room. The sword of the heavens above Chu Kuangren's head was incomparably sharp, whereas Wuchen Zi was surrounded by a tumbling sea of clouds that was ethereal and unpredictable. As the Taoist rhyme spread out, some of the experts sensed it. Someone is discussing the Tao. This direction leads to the guest room. It's Chu Kuangren. Such a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme. The other one is ethereal and unpredictable. It's the Taoist of our Taishu sect, Wuchen Zi. The 2 of them are already discussing the Tao? Some of the Taishu Temple's elders were extremely curious, and they all headed towards the place where the 2 of them were discussing the Tao. Besides the ethereal Taishu technique, the most famous cultivation techniques in the Taishu sect are 32 sets of supreme techniques and 2 sets of sage techniques. I've only learned 12 of them, so please enlighten me, brother Chu. When the group of Taishu Temple's elders arrived, they only heard Wu Chunzi's words. Following that, his Taoist rhyme changed and formed a technique. The sea of clouds tumbled and turned into several clusters of clouds that attacked Chu Kuangren from all directions. That's the cloud-churning technique. One of the elders recognized that technique. However, before the clusters of clouds could get close to Chu Kuangren, the sword of the heavens above him flashed a sword ray and the clusters of clouds were shattered. Wu Chunzi was not surprised. He continued to channel his Taoist rhyme and formed a series of mysterious techniques. That's the supreme technique, will-o-wisp technique, and the freezing spring technique. TSK, so many supreme techniques, and he's so proficient in each of them. How rare. As expected of the only sky pride to be recognized by the Taishu seal in the past few thousand years. He's indeed extraordinary. Look at Chu Kuangren. Although Wu Chunzi's techniques were mysterious, Chu Kuangren remained unmoved despite the raging winds and torrential rain from the outside world. The sword of the heavens hovered above his head, its sword ray flashing from time to time. None of the techniques could land on him. Breaking all techniques with a single sword, it was vividly and vividly displayed. At that moment, a great sun appeared in the sea of clouds around Wu Chunzi. As the great sun rose, it shone with a blinding radiance. A ray of golden light flew out from the great sun, piercing through the layers of clouds and heading straight towards Chu Kuangren. That's the sage technique, sunlight breaker. I didn't expect Wu Chunzi to use such a powerful technique so soon. It seems like Chu Kuangren has given him quite a bit of pressure. The group of Taishu Temple's elders were amazed. At that moment, Chu Kuangren was still calm in the face of a sage technique. A purple sword ray flashed from the sword of the heavens above his head. The purple sword ray collided with the great sun's golden light, and the great sun's golden light was torn apart like a thin piece of paper. The sword ray was like a hot knife through butter as it landed on Wu Chunzi's body. His body trembled slightly, and the Taoist rhymes around him dispersed. The outcome of this sparring session was clear. Not enough. Your Taoist Tao and your techniques are not strong enough. Chu Kuangren said calmly. There was no emotion in his tone. There was no pride, and no contempt. It was as if he was merely stating a fact. However, that was the biggest blow. It meant that Chu Kuangren and Wu Chunzi were no longer on the same level. It was like comparing a human to an ant. Would a human be proud of their strength that far surpassed an ant? Would they look down on an ant because of that? No, because both of them were on the same level. Wu Chunzi understood what Chu Kuangren meant, and he could not help but smile bitterly. The gap between them was just too big. He was the most outstanding sky pride in the Taishu Temple, but compared to Chu Kuangren, he felt that he was too small and too low. It's my honor to be able to spar with you, Brother Chu. I've gained a lot from this sparring session. Wu Chunzi stood up and bowed. He had gained something, but more than that, he felt a sense of loss and loneliness. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. You're too kind. He did not console Wu Chunzi because it was useless. It was a fact that he was much stronger than Wu Chunzi. Wu Chunzi could only rely on himself to walk out of this. Sigh, the gap is too big. Indeed. The elders of the Taishu Temple could not help but sigh. At that moment, the Taishu Temple Lord slowly walked over. Upon seeing him, Wu Chunzi bowed. Greetings, honorable teacher. Wu Chunzi was the disciple of the current Taishu Temple Lord. A moment of victory or defeat does not mean a lifetime of victory or defeat. Wu Chun, this is just a training session. Don't be too engrossed in it. The Taishu Temple Lord saw Wu Chunzi's desolate expression and a hint of heartache flashed across his eyes. Yes, honorable teacher. Wu Chunzi nodded. Then, the Taishu Temple Lord looked at Chu Kuangren and said, Junior Chu, I'm afraid no one in your generation can compare to your profound understanding of Taoist techniques. I wonder if I have the honor to spar with you? Chapter 85. The Taishu Temple Lord wanted to mentally spar with Chu Kuangren. The crowd was in an uproar when they heard that. Who was the Taishu Temple Lord? He was the leader of a sage orthodoxy and an honorable supreme. His name was well known throughout the Azure Dragon domain, and he was revered by billions of people wherever he went. Yet, such a person wanted to mentally spar with a junior? If word of this got out, it would scare people to death. Chu Kuangren was stunned when he heard what the Taishu Temple Lord said. Why did he feel that the Taishu Temple Lord wanted to avenge Wu Chenzi? Not bad at all. Chu Kuangren chuckled as a glint of light flashed across his eyes. The Taishu Temple Lord was not wrong. He had entered the state of Tao enlightenment many times, and he had drawn the meditational clarity attribute a few days ago. His understanding of Tao had long surpassed his peers by leaps and bounds. No, even the experts of the older generation couldn't compare to him. He could not gain much from mentally sparring with the younger cultivators. Only by mentally sparring with the top cultivators would he gain more. Without a doubt, the Taishu Temple Lord was one such cultivator. Since the Temple Lord has invited me, I dare not disobey. Chu Kuangren smiled. All right, then I shall wait for you at the distant Day Palace tomorrow. The Taishu Temple Lord smiled, bowed, and left. When he turned around, the Taishu Temple Lord's eyes were filled with regret. Sigh, I was too impulsive. He was an honorable supreme, yet he impulsively suggested mentally sparring with a junior. If word got out, it would be so embarrassing. However, the words were out and there was no turning back. After the Taishu Temple Lord and the others left, the seventh forefather appeared and frowned. Young lad, do you really want to mentally spar with the Taishu Temple Lord? Of course. This is a good opportunity for me to experience the Taishu Temple's Taoist techniques. Chu Kuangren smiled. But the Taishu Temple Lord is an honorable supreme, and his understanding of Tao is rare. Although mentally sparring is not life-threatening, if the gap is too big, it might affect my Taoist core. My Taoist core is as solid as a rock. Chu Kuangren smiled, his tone full of confidence. His understanding of Tao was no less than an honorable. Even if the Taishu Temple Lord's understanding was higher than his, it would not affect his Taoist core. All right. The seventh forefather nodded. The news that Chu Kuangren was going to spar with the Taishu Temple Lord spread like wildfire in less than half a day, shocking countless people. For a time, the entire Void Temple discussed endlessly. A Supreme Exalt and a Void Interpretation Realm Junior are going to sit down and discuss the Tao? Have I gone mad or has the world gone mad? F***ck me, this Chu Kuangren is amazing. I heard that senior brother Wuchen went to spar with Chu Kuangren but failed in the end. Is the faction lord trying to avenge him? Based on the Abbey Dean's character, it's possible. That's right. I heard that a few decades ago, senior brother Wuchen was injured by a supremacy when he went down the mountain to train. The Hall Master was furious and directly killed his way to the supremacy's orthodoxy and forcefully destroyed it. Tisk, no matter what, the fact that Chu Kuangren is going to spar with the Temple Lord is too shocking. I must go and watch it tomorrow. I want to go too. Me too. In the main hall, the Taishu Temple Lord and a few elders were gathered together. Abbey Dean, you're confused. Who do you think you are? How dare you spar with a junior? One of the elders said bluntly. He had a good relationship with the Taishu Temple Lord, so only he would dare to speak like that. Although the other elders did not say it out loud, their eyes were more or less filled with dissatisfaction. They felt that the Taishu Temple Lord had gone too far. The Taishu Temple Lord said, Chu Kuangren is a genius. Don't you guys want to know what his limit is? Temple Lord, are you saying that this is just a test? Yes. Although it's just a spar and not a real battle, I can at least get a rough idea of this kid's strength if I fight him personally. But you don't have to fight him. Ling Zheng said that since this child was able to kill a venerable one, it means that his comprehension of the Tao is very likely not below that of a venerable one. Only if I make a move will I have full confidence. The Taishu Temple Lord's expression was as calm as an ancient well. I see. Only then did the elders' dissatisfaction dissipate. The Taishu Temple Lord heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally fooled them. In fact, he did not think too much when he proposed the spar to Chu Kuangren. He only wanted to help his disciple vent his anger. However, now that he thought about it, even if Wu Chunzi did not play a part, he should have fought Chu Kuangren personally. Chu Kuangren, I'll be looking forward to your performance tomorrow. The Taishu Temple Lord murmured. The next day, the outer perimeter of the distant Day Palace was filled with Taishu Temple cultivators. Everyone was waiting for the spar that could be said to be the world's greatest disparity. An Honorable Supreme and a Paradise Realm Junior. It's about to begin. I can't wait. Where's Chu Kuangren? Is he here yet? He's here. At that moment, at the end of the crowd, the white-robed Chu Kuangren slowly walked towards them with Lan Yu in tow. He walked at a pace that was neither too fast nor too slow. Lan Yu, who was behind him, followed closely behind. The man and woman instantly attracted everyone's attention. Even the great cultivators who had been cultivating for thousands of years could not help but exclaim. Their peerless beauty was dazzling. As Chu Kuangren walked towards the distant Day Palace, he saw that the Taishu Temple Lord was inside, sitting on a futon with his back facing him. There was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. How big was the gap between his Taoist techniques and his opponents? At that moment, a figure suddenly walked out from the crowd. It was a young cultivator with a bandana on his head. His eyes were filled with eagerness. Taishu Temple Taoist Qingyun, I have a Taoist technique that I'd like to learn from you, Brother Chu. Taoist rhymes appeared around the young cultivator's body. Amidst the tumbling sea of clouds, the sun rose, and a golden ray of light suddenly shot out. That was the sage technique Sunlight Breaker Taoist rhymes. Taishu Temple Fengxian also has a Taoist technique. Please enlighten me. Taishu Temple Qingxin, please enlighten me. A few young cultivators walked out one after another. Without using their spiritual power, they only used their Taoist rhymes to summon all sorts of transformations towards Chu Kuangren. These people were all sky prides of the younger generation. Although they respected Chu Kuangren, they were also unwilling to admit defeat. Hence, they could not help but attack together, wanting to break Chu Kuangren's spirit. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren did not care about them. His eyes were only on the Taishu Temple Lord who was sitting in the distant Day Palace. Just as the various Taoist rhymes surged towards him, the sword of the heavens condensed above Chu Kuangren's head. The sword ray circulated, and in a flash, the Taoist rhymes dispersed like green smoke that was blown away by the wind. Not a single trace of it landed on Chu Kuangren. The gap between them and Chu Kuangren shocked all the young sky prides. The gap between them and Chu Kuangren was just too huge. It was like comparing a firefly to the moon. How could they be compared? Chu Kuangren walked past the crowd of sky prides and arrived at the entrance of the distant Day Palace. Lan Yu stopped at the entrance, and Chu Kuangren walked in without hesitation. Junior Chu, my apologies for my rudeness. The Taishu Temple Lord turned around and smiled apologetically. Chapter 86. It's just a breeze. It doesn't matter. Chu Kuangren chuckled. His voice was neither loud nor soft, and he made no attempt to hide it. Outside the distant Day Palace Hall, the disciples' expressions changed. They wanted to refute him, but they did not know what to say. In other words, they were speechless. A few of the sky prides looked dejected, unwilling, and helpless at the same time. With Junior Chu around, the sky prides of this world have become mediocre. The Taishu Temple Lord looked at Chu Kuangren and lamented. I do not deny what you said, Temple Lord. Chu Kuangren did not look humble at all. To him that was the truth. Even a young emperor would not be able to fight back against him. If even a young emperor was like that, then what about the other so-called sky prides? Hence, no one could be called a sky pride in front of him. The Taishu Temple Lord's mouth twitched. He had never seen someone as shameless as Chu Kuangren, who did not know how to be humble at all. Chu Kuangren's name was not wrong after all. Temple Lord, please, Chu Kuangren said. He could not wait to spar with this honorable supreme. You're a guest and a junior at the same time, so you go first. Then I shall not hold back. Taoist rhymes emanated from Chu Kuangren's body as a sword of the heavens materialized above his head. Several sword rays then shot out towards the Taishu Temple Lord. What a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme. Not bad. The Taishu Temple Lord chuckled as an ethereal Taoist rhyme gathered around him. It turned into a surging sea of clouds that enveloped the sword rays. In the blink of an eye, the sword lights disappeared without a trace. Chu Kuangren was not surprised. It would be surprising if the Taishu Temple Lord's Taoist technique could not even block a few of his sword rays. Heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. Without hesitation, Chu Kuangren unleashed his Sage Ruler Technique's Taoist rhyme. A boundlessly sharp Taoist rhyme rose, and the sword of the heavens trembled slightly before a domineering purple sword ray shot out. Although there was no spiritual power attached to it, just the Taoist rhyme alone was enough to frighten people. Many geniuses outside the Changtian Palace were so frightened by the sword light that their faces turned pale and their lips turned purple. They only felt that they were too insignificant. If he had used this Tao technique when we were discussing Tao yesterday, I'm afraid my Tao heart would have been affected, Wu Chenzi said with a pale face. It wasn't just him, even the higher-ups and elders of the Void Temple were shocked. They noticed that even they might not be able to execute this kind of Tao art. The other party's comprehension in Tao arts was actually so profound. What an impressive Sage Ruler technique. What an impressive single sword technique. The Taishu Temple Lord exclaimed. Even he dared not underestimate Chu Kuangren's Tao technique. The Taishu Temple Lord's Taoist rhyme surged out and enveloped the domineering purple sword light. In the clouds, purple light flashed. Then, the clouds exploded. The Taoist rhymes of the two spread out like a hurricane, sweeping across the entire Longday Palace. The candlelight flickered, and the doors and windows creaked. Young friend, have a taste of mine. The Taishu Temple Lord chuckled. Then, he activated his Tao technique and turned into a few clusters of clouds that surged towards Chu Kuangren. How could an Honorable Supreme's Tao technique be simple? Even if it was an Honorable Supreme technique, Chu Kuangren still had to focus all of his attention on it as he continuously cast the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. Ray after ray of sword rays shuttled back and forth around Chu Kuangren's body, shattering the clusters of clouds that came at him. No matter how many Taoist techniques the Taishu Temple Lord cast and transformations, Chu Kuangren only had that one sword technique. It was as if that was the only sword technique he knew. However, that one sword technique was enough to stun everyone. Oh my god, I can't believe Chu Kuangren can mentally debate with the Taishu Temple Lord. How old is he? This is unbelievable. I agree. How can someone like him exist in this world? No wonder the three great sage orthodoxies are willing to protect him. A sky pride like him will definitely achieve great things in the future. Everyone was dumbstruck by this scene. Whereas, some people relied on this Tao discussion to verify what they'd learned, and they watched with infatuation. Even the honorables felt that they had learned something. As time passed, almost an hour had passed. The Taishu Temple Lord's Tao technique continued to strengthen as he tested Chu Kuangren's limits. Junior Chu, you can't stop me with that sword technique anymore. The Taishu Temple Lord smiled when he felt that it was about time. As Taoist rhymes circulated, a great sun appeared in the clouds and a golden ray of light shot out. It was the Taishu Temple Lord's sage technique, sunlight destruction. The golden ray of light shattered the sword ray and headed straight for Chu Kuangren. Everyone who saw that scene thought to themselves, it's over. It was rare for Chu Kuangren to be able to mentally debate with an Honorable Supreme. However, at that moment, the Taoist rhymes around Chu Kuangren suddenly changed. White lotuses formed and blocked the golden ray of light. It was the white lotus light of purification. The Taishu Temple Lord was shocked. What a mysterious technique. It's similar to the school of white lotus light of purification, but much more exquisite. Is this the reason why the school of white lotus appointed you as a bachelor sage? Chu Kuangren did not answer. Instead, the sword of the heavens above him vibrated, and the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique's Taoist rhyme appeared once again as a sword ray shot out. However, the sun in the sea of clouds once again shot out golden light, striking down the sword light. The Taishu Temple Lord's Taoist technique was too powerful. Although Chu Kuangren had the white lotus light of purification to protect him, The heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique still could not do anything to the Taishu Temple Lord. "Little friend, you've done your best." The Taishu Temple Lord spoke. He then channeled his Dao technique with all his might as a vast amount of Dao energy gushed out. The white lotuses around Chu Kuangren swayed violently as if they were caught in a storm, as if they would shatter at any moment. As expected of an honorable supreme being. His Dao arts are indeed very strong. Is this the best I can do? Chu Kuangren activated his white lotus light of purification and struggled to hold on. No, this is not enough. My Taoist techniques can still be improved. Just when the Taishu Temple Lord thought that everything was about to end, Chu Kuangren did something unexpected. He slowly closed his eyes. What is he doing? Everyone was puzzled. The Taishu Temple Lord frowned slightly, but he did not stop his Taoist techniques. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's mind flashed with the various techniques he had learned in the past, as well as what he had learned from the sparring sessions. Gradually, the Taoist rhyme on his body grew stronger, and the white lotuses that were on the verge of collapsing gradually stabilized. How can this be? The Taishu Temple Lord's expression changed. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's eyes suddenly opened, and a terrifying ray of light flashed across them. Temple Lord, please take another sword attack from me. The sword of heaven started to vibrate violently, and an incredibly terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme swept out like a raging wave. The entire Taishu Temple was enveloped by this sword-based Taoist rhyme, and the swords in the hands of countless swordsmen uncontrollably let out a sword cry. A sword ray shot out from the sword of heaven, and its incredibly pure offensive Taoist rhyme made the Taishu Temple Lord's pupils dilate. Sunlight destruction. The great sun radiated with boundless light, and a ray of sunlight gushed out. However, the moment it came into contact with the sword ray, the sunlight was forcefully shattered. The sword ray pierced through the sea of clouds like a hot knife through butter and landed on the great sun. The Taoist rhyme transformations that were formed by that sword attack dispersed. The Taishu Temple Lord's body trembled, and his face was filled with shock. Chu Kuangren looked at him calmly. How's this sword attack? Chapter 87. I've lost. As soon as the Taishu Temple Lord finished speaking, the countless disciples outside the distant day palace hall fell silent. The huge Taishu Temple did not make a sound. Everyone was so shocked that they could not speak. What did they just hear? The Taishu Temple Lord said that he'd lost. The Taishu Temple Lord had lost to Chu Kuangren in a mental sparring session. He was an honorable supreme. How could he lose to a junior? This kind of thing was too inconceivable. No one would dare to believe it if it was said out. The Temple Lord has lost. How is this possible? Chu Kuangren defeated the Temple Lord. What kind of monster is he? He's only in the Paradise Realm, but he has defeated an honorable supreme in a mental sparring session. This is insane. Scary, this is too scary. Although I don't want to admit it, he's right. No one can call themselves a sky pride in front of him. All of them are mediocre. After the dead silence, a heated discussion broke out. Countless people were shocked and amazed. Some of the sky prides even felt a shadow cast over their hearts as if they had seen a peak that they would never be able to cross in their lives. In the distant day palace hall, the Taishu Temple Lord looked at Chu Kuangren quietly and said, I can't believe Junior Chu was able to achieve enlightenment at the last moment and break through the Dao technique realm. How amazing! If not for the pressure you put on me, I wouldn't have been able to break through at the last moment. Chu Kuangren smiled. To him, wasn't this a normal operation? After all, he was the main character. The Taishu Temple Lord's mouth twitched when he heard that. He had gone for wool and come home shorn. I've learned a lot from this mental sparring session. Thank you, Temple Lord. You're welcome, Junior Chu. I hope you can stay at the Taishu Temple for a few more days. We can talk more when we have time. From that moment on, the Taishu Temple Lord treated Chu Kuangren as an equal, at least in terms of Dao techniques. Sure. Chu Kuangren did not refuse. He stayed at the Taishu Temple for another 3 days. During that time, other than the Taishu Temple Lord, the other elders also came to him for a mental sparring session. After 3 days and more than 10 mental sparring sessions, Chu Kuangren's understanding of Dao techniques deepened, and his single sword destruction technique became more complete. Temple Lord, thank you for chatting for the past few days. In front of the Taishu Temple's mountain entrance, Chu Kuangren was ready to leave. The Great Void Temple Lord and a group of elders came to see him off. Little friend, come often when you have time. The Taishu Temple Lord chuckled. Although he had lost to Chu Kuangren in the sparring session, he did not hold any grudges against him. Instead, he was just amazed. Moreover, being on good terms with this kind of genius also has 100 advantages and no disadvantages for the Void Temple. Only an idiot would become enemies with him. The mountains will never change, and the rivers will always flow. Farewell, Abby Dean. Chu Kuangren turned around and descended the mountain. Gazing at his departing figure, the Taishu Temple Lord sighed emotionally. This child is shockingly talented. He will definitely leave his name in history. He can even be compared to the primeval emperors. Chu Kuangren had left the Taishu Temple, but news of him winning the mental spar with the Taishu Temple Lord had spread far and wide. The geniuses of the various orthodoxies were in disbelief. An insightful Void Realm cultivator debated with a supreme paragon, and he even won? He didn't even dare to brag like this. Monster. This Chu Kuangren isn't human at all. He's a monster. Which Sky Pride can win against an honorable supreme in a mental spar? I also think this person is too scary. Alright, this Chu Kuangren won't stop until he scares us to death, right? The trouble he causes is getting bigger and bigger. TSK, this is nothing. He has even killed a sage before. That makes sense. Although most of them were shocked, some of them seemed to have become numb to Chu Kuangren and began to think that it was normal. So what if he won against an honorable supreme in a mental spar? He had even killed an honorable supreme and a sage before. Compared to that, winning against the Taishu Temple Lord did not seem like a big deal anymore. Inside the sacred lands of serene wisdom, a black-haired young man was holding a report in his hand. On it were some of the top sky prides in the firmament star. Among them, Chu Kuangren's name was highlighted with a red pen. I can't believe that after so many years, when the great Dharma emergence and the Emperor's path has been reopened, there are only so few sky prides. Young Emperor? A Paradise Realm cultivator who is comparable to a Battle Monarch Realm cultivator is a young emperor? What a joke. These young emperors are all unworthy of their title. The black-haired young man said calmly. Beside him, Master Taoist Ling Hai was shocked. He did not expect this sky pride from tens of thousands of years ago to say such a thing. However, when he thought about his opponent's strength, he was no longer surprised. This Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, is quite interesting. If he can defeat an honorable supreme in the Paradise Realm with his Taoist techniques and cultivation base, then he would definitely be the top sky pride of my era. He might become a formidable opponent for me. The black-haired young man put the report aside and looked at Master Taoist Ling Hai. I've been in hibernation for 30,000 years, and the orthodoxy I used to belong to has perished. I can join the sacred lands of serene wisdom. However, I want the sacred lands of serene wisdom to help me with my cultivation. If I become an emperor in the future, I can guarantee that the sacred lands of serene wisdom will be invincible for 100,000 years. Alright. Master Taoist Ling Hai nodded. Then I shall be the Taoist of the sacred lands of serene wisdom from now on, Ao Chang. The black-haired young man, Ao Chang, said calmly. His eyes were burning with passion. He had finally arrived in this era of great battles. In this life, he would defeat all his enemies. Inside Jiang Valley, the void suddenly distorted, and a purple-haired young man walked out of it. He was surrounded by flames of various colors. The temperature of the flames was terrifying. In a short moment, a forest was burned into ashes, and everything within a 100-mile radius was turned into scorched earth. The purple-haired young man slowly opened his palm, and a colorful flame appeared, emanating an extremely terrifying Taoist rhyme. I did it! I've finally tamed the sacred flame left behind by my ancestors. Chu Kuangren, I, Lin Batian, am not weaker than you. Inside Black Heaven sect, countless disciples had received news of Chu Kuangren defeating the Taishu Temple Lord in a mental spar. They were all ecstatic and proud. Elder's senior brother is the best. This is nothing. I wouldn't even be surprised if Elder's senior brother defeated a sage, let alone an honorable supreme. Elder's senior brother is too powerful. Since Elder's senior brother is so powerful, we have to work hard too. That's right. I'll double my cultivation tomorrow. Me too. Everyone, let's train together. It'll be more efficient. The power of a role model was limitless. Chu Kuangren had become a role model for the Black Heaven sect disciples. They chased after Chu Kuangren and worked hard in their cultivation just to close the gap between them. This phenomenon made the higher-ups of the Black Heaven sect very happy. However, Honorable Xian Qi was a little melancholic. Sigh, he defeated the Taishu Temple Lord in a mental spar. Doesn't that mean that Kuangren's Dao cultivation base has already caught up to mine? Then I have nothing else to teach him. Honorable Xian Qi sighed, feeling very melancholic. Having a disciple who was too outstanding was also a troublesome thing. The few elders beside him could not help but roll their eyes when they saw his expression. Keep pretending, keep pretending. Chapter 88. A ferry boat traveled through the sea of clouds. On the deck, Chu Kuangren sat cross-legged with his 3 Taoist protectors around him. All 4 of them had Taoist rhymes circulating around their bodies. The 4 of them were having a mental discussion. An honorable supreme and 2 honorables were having a mental discussion with Chu Kuangren. Not long after, the Taoist rhymes converged and the transformations in the sky disappeared. I feel that my heaven-slaying sword drawing technique is only 1 step away from leveling up. However, this last step is too difficult to take. Chu Kuangren said. The heaven-slaying sword drawing technique was already a sage ruler technique. 1 more step and it would be the legendary emperor technique, a supreme technique that could only be created by an emperor. A long time ago, there were still emperor techniques. However, as the emperors disappeared, the inheritance of emperor techniques was gradually cut off. It has been tens of thousands of years since we last saw an emperor technique, the 7th forefather said helplessly. This was an era of great battles. The great Tao had manifested and the emperor's path was reopened. However, the inheritance of emperor techniques had long disappeared. The cultivators of this era had to start from scratch again. It's alright. Emperor techniques are created by humans. If the emperors of old could do it, there's no reason we can't, Chu Kuangren said with a strong and convincing look in his eyes. The 3 Taoist protectors looked at each other with a look of relief. Peerless talent, outstanding comprehension, a Tao heart that was as firm as a rock, and this kind of indomitable aura that was not weaker than others. To them, Chu Kuangren was born to be a cultivator. He was born to stand at the peak. Bachelor Sage, which orthodoxy should we visit next? Honorable Qinglan, the school of White Lotus's protector, asked curiously. Let's go to the Dharma sect, Chu Kuangren said. The Dharma sect dared to use the name Dharma sect. Naturally, they had countless cultivation techniques. No other orthodoxy in the Azure Dragon domain could compare to them. Some people even said that the Dharma sect had 8 out of 10 Taoist techniques. It was obvious that the Dharma sect had a lot of cultivation techniques. Chu Kuangren had to go to the Dharma sect to perfect his Taoist techniques. In a city at the foot of the mountain in the Dharma sect. This city was very prosperous because it was backed by a sage orthodoxy like the Dharma sect. Cultivators from all over the world had gathered here. When Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived at the city, they planned to rest here for a day before paying the Dharma sect a visit the next day. Quick, the Dharma sect is recruiting at the plaza. Then I'll go take a look as well. The sage orthodoxy is recruiting new people. I have to go and take a look. The cultivators on the street immediately rushed towards a certain direction, causing the originally bustling street to become somewhat deserted. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu looked at each other curiously. Come, Lan Yu, let's go take a look as well. Chu Kuangren was intrigued. He brought Lan Yu to the central plaza of the city, which was already crowded with people. In the middle of the square, There were several stone pillars engraved with all kinds of mysterious runes and embedded with 9 gems. There was a long queue in front of the stone pillar, and a dozen disciples from the Dharma sect were maintaining order. A disciple of the Dharma sect shouted. A cultivator walked in front of the stone pillar and placed his hand on it. The gem on the stone pillar immediately shone. 1 gem, 2 gems, a total of 4 gems shone brightly. Seeing this, the cultivator became dejected. 4 stars. The Dharma sect disciple said indifferently. Chu Kuangren stood at the back of the queue and observed for a while. He noticed that many cultivators could only light up 3 or 4 gems. Only a few who could light up more than 5 gems were accepted. And that was only the first round. What is this stone pillar? Chu Kuangren was curious. It's a treasure specially developed by the Dharma sect to test a cultivator's aptitude. Just then, a voice came from beside Chu Kuangren. It was a white-robed young man who walked in front of Chu Kuangren. He smiled and said, "This treasure classifies the cultivator's aptitudes into 9 levels. The best cultivators can light up 7 to 8 gems. Those with poor aptitudes can only light up 1 gem." The white-robed young man explained passionately. Then 4 stars should be considered good. Chu Kuangren said. That's right. 4 stars are considered geniuses in some of the honorable orthodoxies. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to enter the Dharma sect. The Dharma sect's minimum requirement for disciples is 5 stars. Moreover, aptitude is only the first round of assessment. There are still other assessments such as comprehension, Taoist core, and so on. It's very strict. The white-robed young man seemed to be very familiar with the Dharma sect's assessment. Chu Kuangren could not help but look at him. He activated his eye of revelation. Su Tianyi, Dharma sect's Taoist. Cultivation level, Paradise realm. Cultivates the Sage technique, Universal 8 Baron technique, Sage technique, Transcendent coalescence. Chu Kuangren was surprised. This person was a Dharma sect's Taoist. From the eye of revelation, this person's strength was even stronger than Yuanhong's. Brother, you're here for the recruitment too, right? Come, don't waste your time waiting in line. I'll bring you to the assessment. Su Tianyi dragged Chu Kuangren to the front of the crowd. Chu Kuangren was stunned. Since when did he say he wanted to take the assessment? Brother, you just don't want to cut the line, right? It's okay, I'm the one in charge here. If I say it's okay, it's okay. Su Tianyi interrupted Chu Kuangren's words. Without waiting for Chu Kuangren to say anything, he brought the 2 to the front of the stone pillar and said to one of the disciples, "Let them take the assessment first." Yes, Taoist. That disciple nodded and looked at Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu with surprise in his eyes. F***ck me, these 2 are just too good-looking. The crowd was displeased when they saw someone cutting the line, but when they saw Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu, their displeasure turned into surprise. Where did these 2 come from? They look extraordinary. Tisk, looks like they get special treatment. This damned world that only cares about looks. Brother, please, the Dharma sect's disciple said. Chu Kuangren looked at the stone pillar in front of him, hesitated for a moment, and then reached out his hand. He was also curious about how many gems he could light up. When he placed his hand on the stone pillar, he felt a strange energy being released from the stone pillar and sweeping through his body. Then, the gems on the stone pillar began to light up one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just as I expected. Brother, your looks are extraordinary, so your aptitude shouldn't be too bad either. Su Tianyi looked like he had expected it. However, a look of astonishment soon appeared on his face. That was because just as he finished speaking, all 9 gems on the stone pillar lit up. 9-star aptitude. The 9 gems shone brightly, attracting everyone's attention in the plaza. Exclamations were heard one after another. F***ck me, 9-star aptitude. How many years has it been since a 9-star aptitude appeared in the Dharma sect? This is just too shocking. It's not a matter of years. Ever since the Dharma sect invented this stone pillar, no one has been able to light up all 9 gems. Oh my God, who is this person? Chapter 89. The 9 gems on the stone pillar lit up at the same time. The never-before-seen 9-star qualification shocked everyone. Su Tiany's jaw dropped as he stared at Chu Kuangren in shock. He had only brought Chu Kuangren here to take the test because of his extraordinary temperament. He did not expect Chu Kuangren to be so amazing. A 9-star qualification. Su Tiany was an 8-star qualification, and he was already one of the most outstanding people in the history of the Dharma sect. How far could Chu Kuangren go with a 9-star qualification? The Dharma sect had found a treasure this time. 9-star qualification? Chu Kuangren murmured. He was not surprised by the result. If top-notch Sky Prides could achieve 7-star or 8-star qualifications, then it was not surprising for a Sky Pride like him who had defeated a young emperor to have a 9-star qualification. Just when he thought that this was his qualification, something strange happened again. The light on the stone pillar became more blinding, and the runes on the stone pillar began to flicker. Cracks began to appear on the pillar. With a loud explosion, the stone pillar shattered into pieces. What's going on? Chu Kuangren was confused. His qualification was more than 9 stars? Did the stone pillar explode because it could not be tested? Su Tiany and the others were stunned too. What's going on? I've never encountered something like this before. Could it be that the stone pillar has been out of repair for a long time and has malfunctioned? That's possible. Many people at the scene breathed a sigh of relief. So it was a malfunction. They really thought that a 9-star genius had appeared. Brother, let's change to another stone pillar, the Dharma sect disciple said. Chu Kuangren nodded and placed his hand on another stone pillar. The 9 gems lit up just like before, and the light grew brighter and brighter. Under everyone's shocked gaze, the stone pillar cracked and turned into a pile of rubble. The crowd was speechless. Is there a problem with this pillar too? Should I change to another one? Chu Kuangren said as he walked towards the next stone pillar. Stop. Brother, don't come any closer. The disciple in charge of the other stone pillar quickly stood in front of Chu Kuangren and yelled. What kind of joke was this? They finally understood that the stone pillar had no problem at all. The one with the problem was Chu Kuangren himself. Everyone was dumbfounded. What kind of monster was this? To think that his aptitude had exceeded the limits of the testing stone pillar. This was way stronger than the Taoists of the other great Tao orthodoxies. Fellow Taoist, there's no need for you to take the test. You've passed. Su Tiany gulped and said. He said to the disciples next to him, you guys continue to preside over the first round of assessment. I'll take the rest to the second round. All right, senior brother. By the way, how do I address you, fellow Taoist? My surname is Chu. So it's Brother Chu. Let me tell you, the second test is to test your perception. There's a forest of steels in the Dharma sect that records thousands of techniques. Su Tiany talked nonstop. Chu Kuangren was just about to explain when he heard that. A forest of steels that recorded thousands of cultivation methods? That was interesting. Chu Kuangren decided to check it out first. By the way, fellow Taoist, you should also test your aptitude. Su Tiany looked at Lan Yu who was beside Chu Kuangren. Lan Yu nodded and walked up to the stone pillar. She placed her hand on it. Instantly, the 9 gemstones shone brightly. This scene once again stunned everyone. F***CK Another freak. Everyone stared at the stone pillar, afraid that it would explode. Fortunately, the 9 gemstones on the stone pillar were blinding, but the stone pillar itself was unharmed. Everyone could not help but let out a sigh of relief. Then they regained their senses. That was a 9-star Taoist. And that Brother Chu, oh my God, where did he come from? Brother Chu, your aptitude is amazing. I'm impressed. Su Tiany gulped. He felt that the day was a little magical. He had met 2 freakishly talented cultivators in a row. After that, Su Tiany brought Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu, and the other cultivators who passed the first round of assessment to the Dharma sect. In a peculiar steel forest in the Dharma sect. Countless stone tablets were erected on the ground, and a large number of characters were engraved on them. Each stone tablet represented a cultivation method. What a magnificent steel forest! Each stone tablet represents a cultivation method. By the heavens, only the Dharma sect could find so many methods. It's amazing. It's just too powerful. As expected of a sage orthodoxy. Their heritage is too strong. Yeah, so this is the second round of assessment. Chu Kuangren was just as surprised as the others. He roughly scanned the area with his spiritual thought and found out that there were at least 8,000 stone tablets. In other words, there were at least 8,000 techniques here. Even the Black Heaven sect could not come up with so many techniques. Although the techniques here were all below the supreme technique level, it was still shocking enough. The Dharma sect's name was not in vain. The second round of assessment is for you to choose a technique in this steel forest and see results within 3 days. If you fail, you'll be eliminated. Su Tianyi said. Everyone looked at each other. Some of them were shocked. Are you kidding me? Even the most common technique would see results within 3 days? How is that possible? How can there be someone with such a high level of understanding in this world? Yeah, that's impossible. This round of assessment is too difficult. That's right. Faced with everyone's doubts, Su Tianyi sneered. There are 100,000 disciples in the Dharma sect, and every single one of them has passed this round of assessment. Among them, there were some who were talented enough to learn a few or even 10 techniques within 3 days. Don't use your incompetence as an excuse. Either you take the assessment or leave. No one is forcing you. No one was willing to leave. Even the cultivators who felt that it was too difficult only grumbled a little. Since they were already here, they should at least give it a try. Then, let the assessment begin. Su Tianyi then smiled at Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. With your qualifications, this round shouldn't be a problem. I'll be waiting for your good news. Although it was said that aptitude was not the same as perception, generally speaking, a cultivator with good aptitude would not be too bad at perception, no matter how bad it was. After Su Tianyi left, Chu Kuangren looked at the countless stone tablets in front of him and smiled. This steel forest is a good place. He scanned the stone tablets with his spiritual thought and began to gain insights. Although these were all techniques that were not very useful to Chu Kuangren, there were many of them. Moreover, there were all kinds of them, which was very helpful to Chu Kuangren's single sword technique destruction technique. Just as Chu Kuangren began to gain insights, Lan Yu was on high alert beside him to prevent him from being disturbed. Young lady, there are many techniques here. If you want to gain insights, you can go and try. We'll protect the bachelor sage. In the void, Honorable Qing Lan transmitted a message to Lan Yu. No need. Lan Yu shook her head. She had her own Tao, so gaining insights on a few techniques would not help her at all. Chapter 90. There are so many cultivation techniques here. Which one should we choose? Yeah, this is too troublesome. Sigh, this is too difficult. To achieve results in 3 days, a cultivation technique that is too advanced is not an option. We can only choose the easier ones. Then let's go with the lower tier ones. Could the results of this stage be related to the level of the cultivation method we choose? The higher the level of the cultivation method we comprehend, the better our results and vice versa? If that's the case, we'll have to be careful. No matter what, the most important thing is to act according to your capabilities. Remember, we only have 3 days. Inside the 10,000 spell steel forest, the cultivators were all in a dilemma, thinking about which cultivation method to choose to comprehend. There were too many cultivation techniques in front of them, and they included almost all kinds of common cultivation techniques in the world of cultivation. Some people looked at Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. Their talents were too terrifying, and they left a deep impression on them. They wanted to see what cultivation technique they would choose. However, when they looked over, they were stunned. Chu Kuangren was standing there with his eyes closed, and Lan Yu was standing beside him without moving. It seemed like she had no intention of studying the stone tablets. What's going on? Don't they want to pass the test? The crowd was puzzled, but they ignored them after a glance. Now that everyone was busy with their own matters, they did not care about Chu Kuangren either. Gradually, most people had chosen the techniques they wanted to study. Only a few people were still struggling with their choices. While the crowd was choosing, Chu Kuangren was already swimming in the sea of Taoist techniques. His spiritual thoughts spread, and the various techniques recorded on the stone tablets appeared in his mind one by one. He quickly studied them and mastered them. The attribute of meditative anatta was displayed to the fullest. 10 types, 20 types, 30 types, 50 types, 100 types, 300 types, 500 types. Chu Kuangren seemed to be able to comprehend all of the techniques just by looking at them once. The entire process did not even take 10 seconds. The more he comprehended the various techniques, the deeper his understanding of them became, and the faster his comprehension speed became. Gradually, a mysterious Taoist rhyme began to emanate from Chu Kuangren's body. Among them were the 5 elements Taoist rhymes of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, as well as the 4 elements Taoist rhymes of earth, wind, water, and fire. There was an unparalleled sword Tao rhyme. It was a majestic palm technique that contained the charm of mountains and rivers. There were treacherous and ever-changing finger techniques, and there were broad-ranging saber techniques. Various types of Taoist rhymes and techniques surrounded Chu Kuangren. It was incomparably magnificent and dazzling like a Taoist feast. As the Taoist rhymes became denser, all sorts of phenomena appeared one after another. In the void, there were illusions of mountains and rivers, sword chi crisscrossing, saber light and bloody shadows, gales, torrential rain, flying snow. The appearance of the Taoist rhymes startled many of the cultivators who were in the midst of studying the stone tablets. They all looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. F***ck, what is this? What is he doing? Why are there so many Tao runes and phenomenons? Everyone's eyes were filled with shock and confusion. Meanwhile, Lan Yu, who was standing beside Chu Kuangren, let out a burst of white light as she changed into a set of gorgeous silver-white armor. Her eyes were cold as she looked around cautiously. At that moment, no matter who it was, anyone who dared to approach Chu Kuangren would suffer Lan Yu's most powerful attack. The Taoist rhymes and phenomenons that emanated from Chu Kuangren's study not only startled the cultivators in the Steel Forest but also affected half of the Dharma sect. What's going on? Why is there such a Taoist rhyme? What a heterogeneous Taoist rhyme. It's coming from the direction of the Steel Forest. What happened? Some of the Dharma sect's higher-ups and elders were confused as they rushed to the Steel Forest to find out what was going on. At that moment, outside the Steel Forest, Su Tianyi and a few other disciples were discussing how long the assessment would take. In my opinion, it'll take at least a day. That's right. In the previous assessments, even senior brother Su's won. It took 6 hours for anyone to achieve any results. Although it's a magical technique, without a certain level of enlightenment, an ordinary cultivator would need at least a few years to study it. Su Tianyi and the others continued to discuss. Cultivation was not only about one's innate talent but also one's level of enlightenment. If one did not have it, no matter how good one's innate talent was, it would still take 10 days or even 10 days to achieve anything. That would limit one's final achievement. There's movement inside. Suddenly, Su Tianyi's expression froze. Just when they were surprised, a majestic Taoist rhyme erupted from within the Steel Forest, followed by various transformations in the void. Oh my God, what's going on? What's happening inside? Su Tianyi and the others immediately rushed into the Steel Forest. Just as they stepped into the forest, the higher-ups and elders of the Dharma sect arrived as well. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren under the transformations and looked at each other. Su Taoist, what's going on? One of the elders looked at Su Tianyi and asked curiously. Su Tianyi shook his head. Elder, I'm not sure either. This person is one of the disciples participating in this assessment. His qualifications are so outstanding that even the assessment pillars can't accurately measure his qualifications. The elders were even more shocked when they heard that. You're saying that he's one of the disciples participating in this assessment? At that moment, an elder walked out from behind the crowd and asked in a strange tone. Yes. That's impossible. That elder smiled and shook his head. Elder, do you know him? Yes, Even if you haven't met him before, you must have heard of his name. His name is Chu Kuangren, the old man said. He had met Chu Kuangren before. When he was in the luminous moon's secret realm, he had also heard that Chu Kuangren was visiting the various orthodoxies one by one. Although he was surprised by Chu Kuangren's sudden appearance, he was not puzzled. Chu Kuangren, as soon as these 3 words came out, everyone present gasped. He's Chu Kuangren. Oh my God, I saw Chu Kuangren. Such a fairy-like appearance. He's exactly the same as the legendary Chu Kuangren. I can't believe it's really him. Who was the most famous person in the Azure Dragon domain? Without a doubt, it was the Black Heaven Sect's elder senior brother, Chu Kuangren. Declaring war on the world, killing an honorable, killing a sage, becoming the fiancé of the royal Azure dynasty, the newly appointed bachelor of the School of White Lotus, defeating the Taishu Temple Lord in a sparring session. Any one of these incidents was shocking enough, not to mention all of them were concentrated on the same person. Su Tianyi was also shocked. He's Chu Kuangren? Yes, it's him. The old man nodded with certainty. Then what's he doing now? The old man carefully observed for a while before his body trembled and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. He's learning the techniques recorded in the Steel Forest. Not just 1 or 2 techniques, but all of the techniques in this Steel Forest. How's that possible? As soon as the old man said that, everyone at the scene felt incredulous. How many techniques were there in the Steel Forest? There were at least 8,000 of them. Even the Dharma sect's sect leader might not even know half of them, yet Chu Kuangren was learning all of them in the Steel Forest? This kind of thing was simply a fantasy story. No one would believe it even if they told them. Chapter 91. Elder, you must be joking with us. Su Tianyi looked at the old man in disbelief. The rest of the people looked at the old man. Although they did not say a word, their eyes revealed the same thoughts as Su Tianyi. There were at least 8,000 cultivation techniques in the Steel Forest. An ordinary cultivator might not even learn 1/100th of such a number of techniques in their lifetime. However, the old man was telling them that Chu Kuangren was gaining insights into all the techniques in the Steel Forest. How could they believe it? I know it's unbelievable, but Chu Kuangren can't be measured with common sense. This guy is too demonic. Take a closer look. The various Taoist rhymes on Chu Kuangren's body correspond to the techniques recorded in the Steel Forest. After the elder finished speaking, the crowd began to observe carefully. Many people's expressions changed when they saw it. This gentle Taoist rhyme is the top-tier cloud sleeve technique. Swift as the wind, calm as the mountain. This is the Black Mountain Sword art. Not only that, that's the top-tier Thunder Palm technique. Diamond Fist, Demon Head Blade technique, 9 Heavens Moonlight Blade technique. Oh my God, even these top-tier Taoist rhymes are contained within. There are too many. There are so many Taoist rhymes. I can't even look at them all. But every single one of them can be found in the Steel Forest. This is unbelievable. How did he do it? The Dharma sect's cultivators were all shocked. The scene before them was like a dream. How could anyone in this world gain insights into so many techniques? On the same day too. 4,613 Taoist rhymes. No. It's 4,614 now. The Taoist rhymes on his body are constantly increasing. This means he's still gaining insights into the techniques recorded in the Steel Forest. Some of the Dharma sect's strong cultivators carefully counted the Taoist rhymes that emanated from Chu Kuangren's body. However, just as they finished counting, another or even more Taoist rhymes appeared on Chu Kuangren's body in the next second. The speed at which he was gaining insights was too terrifying. No one would believe it if they did not see it with their own eyes. It's not as simple as just gaining insights. Judging from the level of Taoist rhymes, I'm afraid he has completely mastered them. One of the elders said with a trembling voice. This is impossible. This is impossible. I've come to this Steel Forest to comprehend for at least 16 hours every single day, day and night, rain or shine, yet I've only grasped less than 100 profound techniques now. he'll be able to comprehend all 8,000 techniques in this steel forest in a single day? This is impossible, impossible. When some young cultivators saw this scene, their Dao hearts suffered an unprecedented impact, and their expressions started to become deranged as they fell into a trance. Some of them even wanted to rush out and question Chu Kuangren on the spot. Why was it that their 1,000 years of cultivation could not compare to Chu Kuangren's one day of Taoist enlightenment? Why? Lan Yu took a step forward with a cold look in her eyes. Her Taoist rhymes circulated around her body and she activated her spiritual power. She was ready to attack at any moment. However, the elders of the Dharma sect were faster. They grabbed these young cultivators and threw them out of the steel forest. Alas, even I feel that my cultivation is futile when I see this scene, let alone these youngsters. One of the elders sighed. Don't let them get close to the steel forest. Let them go out and calm down. Otherwise, their Dao hearts will collapse and their cultivation will be destroyed. All right, don't let anyone near Chu Kuangren. An elder said as he glanced at the void. They knew that even without them, Chu Kuangren's protectors who were hiding in the dark would not let anyone near. However, knowing was one thing, but doing it was another matter. Even if it was just for show, it would still be good to express their goodwill. This person is indeed talented. A sigh came from the void. An old man with white hair and brows in a gray robe walked into the steel forest. When they saw him, everyone immediately bowed. Greetings, sect master. This person was the Dharma sect master. All right, let's wait and see. The Dharma sect master nodded slightly, his eyes never leaving Chu Kuangren. As time passed, various transformations appeared in the steel forest, and Chu Kuangren's Taoist rhymes were still increasing rapidly. The meditational clarity attribute was too powerful. He could even quickly gain insights into a sage ruler technique like the White Lotus Light of Purification, let alone the techniques in the steel forest that were not even comparable to supreme techniques. Although the amount was huge, it was very easy for Chu Kuangren to gain insights. 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,136. Soon, Chu Kuangren's Taoist rhymes had reached 8,136, which meant that Chu Kuangren had learned all 8,136 techniques in the steel forest. This kind of action could be said to be unprecedented. He has really learned all the techniques. One of the Dharma sect's higher-ups gulped as his Taoist core trembled violently. The other cultivators were also shocked speechless. It was too terrifying, too terrifying. Even if they had heard all sorts of rumors about Chu Kuangren, they were, after all, just rumors. The level of shock they received was far less than what was happening right in front of them right now. In one day, no, in half a day, he had learned all 8,000 techniques in the steel forest. Was this something that a human could do? If someone were to say that Chu Kuangren was an emperor now, people would probably believe it. Perhaps only the emperors from the ancient legends had this ability. Just when Chu Kuangren had finished learning all the techniques in the steel forest, the Taoist rhymes and transformations that filled the void quickly dispersed like a tide. Chu Kuangren's body emitted a boundless brilliance, and there seemed to be runes circulating on the surface of his body. It was extremely mysterious. Transcendent coalescence Taoist physique. One of the elders suddenly exclaimed in surprise. The others were shocked too. The transcendent coalescence Taoist physique was a very ancient supreme Taoist physique, and it was ranked among the top 3,000 physiques. Even the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was slightly inferior to it. Legend had it that the possessor of this supreme Taoist physique could use his own body as a furnace to smelt all techniques. It was extremely terrifying. No, it's not the real transcendent coalescence Taoist physique, but it already has some Taoist rhymes. Perhaps if he continues to learn like this, he can really acquire this supreme Taoist physique. The Dharma sect master exclaimed. The Taoist physique was innate, but some could also be acquired through cultivation. However, it was too difficult, and only a few people in history had managed to do it. What more a supreme Taoist physique? However, looking at Chu Kuangren, the cultivators at the scene suddenly had a ridiculous thought. Perhaps he could really do it, The boundless divine light and the runes converged, and Chu Kuangren once again returned to his jade-like appearance. He opened his eyes, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. This time, learning all 8,000 techniques in the Steel Forest had helped him a lot. He had taken another big step on the path of the single sword technique to break all techniques. Now I just need to find time to integrate what I learned today into the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique and perfect it again, Chu Kuangren murmured. He only cultivated one sword technique, but it could break all techniques. And the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique was this sword technique that he cultivated. Collecting his thoughts, Chu Kuangren looked at the Dharma sect master and the others, slowly walked forward, and bowed. My name is Chu Kuangren, and I'm here to visit the Dharma sect. Please forgive me if I've offended you. Everyone looked at Chu Kuangren with incomparably complicated gazes. Chapter 92. Junior Chu, your presence brings light to the Dharma sect. The Dharma sect's sect master smiled. As long as you don't mind my nagging. It's not convenient to talk here. Junior, please follow me. The Dharma sect's sect master led Chu Kuangren out of the Steel Forest. Outside the Steel Forest, the Dharma sect's disciples who had been beaten black and blue looked at Chu Kuangren with complicated gazes. There was shock, reluctance, jealousy, and admiration, comprehending the 8,000 methods of the Steel Forest in half a day. To them, such a feat was like a myth. What was Chu Kuangren, who had achieved such a feat? A deity? No matter what he was someone they could never hope to achieve. Brother Chu, you've kept me in the dark for so long. Su Tianyi looked at Chu Kuangren and said with a bitter smile. He initially thought that he had found a peerless genius for the Dharma sect, but he did not expect things to turn out this way. It's my fault for not informing you in advance. My apologies. Chu Kuangren smiled. He did not reveal his identity because he wanted to visit the Steel Forest. Come to think of it, it's my fault for being slow-witted. Brother Chu, with your demeanor, you're not an ordinary person. It doesn't take much to figure it out. Su Tianyi shook his head and did not complain. The few of them arrived at the Dharma sect's palace. Chu Kuangren did not beat around the bush and immediately stated his intention. He wanted to spar with the Dharma sect to verify his knowledge. I heard that even the head of the Taishu temple lost to little friend Chu in terms of Tao. This makes me very curious. Since little friend Chu wants to find someone to sit and spar with, then let me do it. The sect leader of the 10,000 Dharma sect smiled. The few elders in the palace hesitated for a moment but did not refute. They could not think of any reason to do so. You say that Chu Kuangren is a junior, and the Dharma sect's sect master is an honorable supreme. Sparring with him is unfair and unreasonable? Stop joking. Comprehending the 8,000 methods of the Steel Forest in half a day, who would dare to treat him as an ordinary junior? Moreover, even the Taishu temple lord had lost, so it was not unusual for the Dharma sect's sect master to spar with him. News of Chu Kuangren sparring with the Dharma sect's sect master spread throughout the sect. Many cultivators were talking about it, looking forward to it. The next day, after a round of incense and bathing, the sect master and Chu Kuangren stood on a high platform and began their sparring session under the gaze of countless disciples. Please. The Dharma sect master smiled. Chu Kuangren did not bother with pleasantries. Even though he had comprehended all 8,000 methods in the Steel Forest, he was still using the sword Tao that he had already perfected. The sword of the heavenly path appeared, and the Taoist rhyme of the sword filled the air. The sword light flashed, heading towards the 10,000 Law sect master. As the supreme of the Azure Dragon domain and the leader of the Dharma sect, the Dharma sect master had a deep understanding of the Tao. He was surrounded by Taoist rhymes, and all kinds of mysterious techniques were at his fingertips. With no difficulty at all, he blocked the sword light with a flick of his sleeve. This move made everyone present gasp in admiration. As expected of the sect leader, his Tao techniques are indeed incomparably exquisite. Too strong. Is this the Taoist magic of an honorable supreme? So powerful. Countless disciples exclaimed in admiration. However, some of the higher-ups and elders looked extremely solemn. Only they could tell that the Dharma sect master's flick of his sleeve looked simple, but in fact he had used no less than 10 different cultivation techniques. So strong. This Chu Kuangren's Dao techniques and cultivation level are so terrifying. Just the first strike alone was enough to make the sect leader go all out. His understanding of the sword Dao and sword techniques is no less than Honorable Xian Qi's. Chu Kuangren is amazing. The few elders looked at each other and saw the seriousness in each other's eyes. Then they looked at the high platform without blinking. Junior Chu's Dao techniques are so profound that I'm impressed, the Dharma sect master said calmly. He was already fully focused. Then, the two of them continued to spar on the high platform. One of them could easily summon a myriad of techniques with a wave of his hand. Gorgeous Taoist rhymes circulated around his body, which was incomparably gorgeous and ever-changing. On the other hand, the other only had a single sword. It was an extremely simple sword that turned complicated into simple, but it had a boundless sharpness and unparalleled offensive power. Just one sword could break a myriad of techniques. Whether it was the Dharma Honorable or Chu Kuangren, their Dao techniques and cultivation levels could be said to be the best in the world. The cultivators below the high platform were mesmerized by the two's sparring. Some of them even took the opportunity to verify their own Dao techniques. As time passed, the sun set and the moon rose, the sparring lasted for a full day and night. Chu Kuangren could defeat the Taishu Temple Lord in terms of Dao techniques, and now that he had gained insights into the Steel Forest's 8,000 methods, his Dao techniques and cultivation level had improved significantly. The Dharma sect master was slightly stronger than the Taishu Temple Lord in terms of Dao techniques, but he still lost to Chu Kuangren in the end. As the sun rose, the golden rays of the morning sun shone on the high platform and onto Chu Kuangren's body. It was as if a layer of golden gauze had been draped over him, accentuating his ethereal aura to the fullest. "Senior, thank you for letting me win," Chu Kuangren said. The Dharma sect master looked at him and was silent for a while before he laughed. "Chu Kuangren, you're invincible below the sages in terms of Dao techniques. I admit defeat." Invincible below the sages? The Dharma sect's cultivators narrowed their eyes and stared at Chu Kuangren. They did not expect him to reach such a level. "A sage, huh?" Chu Kuangren murmured before he chuckled. "It won't be long before I find a sage to spar with." Indeed. Chu Kuangren had the meditational clarity attribute, which allowed him to quickly gain insights into various cultivation techniques. With this cheat, his Dao techniques and cultivation level would definitely improve at an unimaginable speed. Even if it was a sage, it would not be long before he could spar with him. It was not just a spar, he wanted to win. Chu Kuangren's words made the crowd feel incredulous. They looked at Chu Kuangren, not knowing what to say. Spar with a sage? Even an honorable supreme would not dare to dream of such a thing. Putting aside the question of where Chu Kuangren could find a sage, the gap between a sage and an honorable supreme was just too huge. Their understanding of Dao techniques was far above that of an honorable supreme. Many years ago, an honorable supreme once sparred with a sage, but unfortunately, that honorable supreme did not even last for half an hour. Moreover, that was when the sage went easy on him. "Chu Kuangren, you're being a little too arrogant. The gap between an honorable and a sage is unimaginable." "You're right. In the end, he's still too young and arrogant. Does he really think he can defeat a sage just because he can defeat an honorable supreme? That's just too naive." "Exactly. How many sages are there in this world? Which one of them isn't a supreme who hides behind the orthodoxies? It's not that easy to meet them, let alone spar with them. Some people whisper to each other." The Dharma sect master smiled at Chu Kuangren. "Kuangren, you live up to your name. But it's all right. It's normal for a young man to be arrogant. Besides, a cultivator should have this kind of ambition. As the saying went, a cultivator who did not want to be a sage was not a good cultivator." Every cultivator in this world had the same idea as Chu Kuangren. Unfortunately, most of them did not dare to say it out loud. But Chu Kuangren did. Chapter 93. Master, I have a request. Chu Kuangren suddenly said after the discussion. Oh, please speak, the sect master said. The Dharma sect is the orthodoxy with the most cultivation techniques in the Azure Dragon domain. The Steel Forest's 8,000 techniques are just some techniques. I believe the Dharma sect still has many supreme techniques and sage techniques that I'd like to take a look at. Chu Kuangren smiled. The Steel Forest's 8,000 techniques were only used to test disciples. How could the Dharma sect's true heritage be taken out for everyone to see? As soon as Chu Kuangren said that, the expressions of the few elders at the scene instantly turned grim. They looked at Chu Kuangren with hostility. Junior Chu, please don't be too presumptuous. That's right. Supreme techniques and sage techniques are the foundation of an orthodoxy. How can they be taken out for everyone to see? That's right. This request is too much. The smile on the Dharma sect master's face disappeared. However, he believed that Chu Kuangren would not make such a request without a reason. Junior Chu, what do you want in exchange? Hey, you're wise, master. Chu Kuangren smiled. Then, a majestic Taoist rhyme emanated from his body and formed an ancient godly mountain in the void. That Taoist rhyme amazed everyone. What a strong Taoist rhyme. What a mysterious technique. This is a sage ruler technique. This is definitely a sage ruler technique. There are only a few sage ruler techniques in the firmament star. Why have I never heard of this before? Sage ruler techniques were too rare. In this era where emperor techniques were almost extinct, sage ruler techniques were the most advanced techniques. There were only a handful of them in the entire firmament star. What do you think of this technique, master? Chu Kuangren asked. Very good, very good. The Dharma sect master could not help but breathe a little heavier. Chu Kuangren continued, this technique is called the human mountain stamp. As long as the Dharma sect opens up all of their cultivation techniques to me, I will give you this technique. At that moment, everyone looked at each other hesitantly. One was all of their sect's techniques, while the other was a never-before-seen sage ruler technique. This kind of deal made everyone feel conflicted. This matter is of great importance. We must discuss it, the Dharma sect master said. Of course. Chu Kuangren retracted his Taoist rhyme. While the Dharma sect master and the others were discussing, Chu Kuangren was leisurely strolling around with Lan Yu, as if they were on a sightseeing trip. Little fella, isn't it too much of a loss to use a saint ruler technique to exchange for it? The seventh forefather's voice came from the void. Although the sage ruler technique is precious, the many techniques collected by the Dharma sect are of great help to me in perfecting my Tao techniques. It's not a loss. Moreover, even if I give them the sage ruler technique, they will still need to have the ability to comprehend it first. By the time they have grasped this technique, I will have already left them far behind. Chu Kuangren chuckled. His words were filled with confidence. Sage ruler techniques were indeed precious, but there were still a few of them in the entire firmament star. Many people had tried to learn them, but how many of them had mastered them? Not everyone was Chu Kuangren's match. After about half a day, the sect master of the Dharma sect found Chu Kuangren and agreed to trade with him. However, he had a condition. The Dharma sect can open up all of their cultivation techniques to Chu Li, but only for one day. The Dharma sect leader said. The reason for this condition was that they were too afraid of Chu Kuangren's terrifying power of understanding. The scene of him comprehending all 8,000 techniques in half a day was still vivid in their minds. If he were to learn all of the Dharma sect's supreme techniques and sage techniques, then they would no longer have any secrets in front of Chu Kuangren. That was why they had to limit his time. Supreme techniques were not mystical techniques. No matter how insane Chu Kuangren's power of understanding was, he would not be able to learn all of them in just one day, right? Dharma sect leader, is this how you show your sincerity? The seventh forefather walked out from the void with a frown and dissatisfaction. Supreme techniques were 1,000 times more mysterious than mystical techniques. No matter how strong Chu Kuangren's power of understanding was, how many could he learn in a day? Did he want to trade for a sage ruler technique just like that? Seventh forefather, it's fine. Chu Kuangren waved his hand and smiled. Then we shall do as you say. One day. Seeing the confident smile on Chu Kuangren's face, the Dharma sect leader was a little uncertain. Did they underestimate Chu Kuangren's power of understanding? Then please follow me. The Dharma sect leader found a Taoist stele. Chu Kuangren imprinted the human mountain stamp on it and then entered a scripture library. This was where the Dharma sect's true heritage was hidden. Chu Kuangren scanned it with his spiritual thought and found that there were 74 supreme techniques and 4 sage techniques, including the 5 ways, for divine beasts, and so on. The 8,000 techniques in the steel forest were not even 1/10 of these techniques. Now, they were placed in front of Chu Kuangren, allowing him to learn freely. One day is enough. Chu Kuangren smiled. To other cultivators, even geniuses might not be able to learn 1/10 of a supreme technique in a day. But to Chu Kuangren, it was not a problem at all. The Dharma sect leader and the others had underestimated him. Chu Kuangren took out a golden card. It was the golden Tao Enlightenment card that he had gotten 2 days ago. He had gotten it once before, and when he used it, he immediately created the Sage Ruler technique, Heaven-Slaying Sword Drawing technique. This time, he wanted to use it together with the Meditational Clarity art. After crushing the card, Chu Kuangren entered a mysterious state of enlightenment. At the same time, the Meditational Clarity art was activated. Outside the scripture library, the Dharma sect leader and a group of high-level elders were watching. It had been 20 hours since Chu Kuangren entered the scripture library. There were only 4 hours left until the day's time limit. Let Chu Kuangren out immediately when the time is up. His comprehension is too terrifying. I dare not let him stay for even a second longer. One of the elders said in a serious tone. Yes, if all of our Dharma sect's techniques are mastered by him, then we will have no secrets in front of him. This is a cultivation taboo. Although it's a little unkind to do this, this matter concerns the foundation of the Dharma sect. It's not a big deal to be shameless. Just as the elders were discussing, a terrifying Taoist rhyme suddenly soared into the sky from the scripture depository and swept in all directions. The entire Dharma sect shook violently. In the void, the Taoist rhyme manifested and turned into a white-robed figure holding a sword. Upon closer inspection, the figure looked very similar to Chu Kuangren. While the Dharma sect leader and the others were shocked, the figure raised the sword in his hand and swung it at the void. In an instant, rays of light bloomed. There was a violent gust of wind that shook the earth, rivers that filled the sky, and flames that burned the heavens and earth. That's the 4 mystical technique. He's able to perform the 4 mystical combined attack by himself. In the sky, the white-robed figure wielded the sword continuously. Every swing of the sword would manifest a Taoist rhyme that represented a technique. In a few breaths, the 74 techniques in the scripture library, and even 4 types of sage techniques, were all performed under the swing of the sword. This scene greatly shocked the Dharma sect leader and the others. How is this possible? 10,000 techniques with 1 sword. Chapter 94. In the sky, Chu Kuangren's Taoist rhyme condensed into a longsword. Every swing of his sword was a mysterious technique. He had mastered the 74 supreme techniques and 4 sage techniques in the Dharma sect. His proficiency was no weaker than the Dharma sect masters. This was completely beyond everyone's imagination. How can his level of enlightenment be this terrifying? He's inhuman. This is terrifying. The Dharma sect master and the others were dumbfounded. One day, just one day. They thought that it would be an incredible feat for Chu Kuangren to be able to gain insight into 10 supreme techniques in just one day. Considering Chu Kuangren's previous achievement of learning 8,000 techniques in half a day, they thought he could learn about 30. After all, supreme techniques were much more mysterious than mystical techniques. However, they still underestimated Chu Kuangren. Far too underestimated. In the void, Chu Kuangren's illusion waved his sword and practiced the 10,000 techniques. After that, he stood in midair with his eyes closed. However, the majestic Taoist rhyme on his body increased, and the countless Taoist rhymes gradually condensed into one. It was an extremely terrifying and offensive sword-based Taoist rhyme. Chu Kuangren's illusion moved again. Just when all of the Taoist rhymes had converged into one, Chu Kuangren made his move. With a swing of his sword, a dazzling purple sword ray tore through the clouds and tore a huge hole in the cloud layer. What a terrifying Taoist rhyme. One sword to break all things, has he already mastered it? The Dharma sect master and the others looked at each other. At that moment, the illusion in the sky dissipated, and the Taoist rhyme receded like the tide. The scripture library's door creaked open. Chu Kuangren, who was dressed in a white robe, slowly walked out. Everyone could vaguely see mysterious runes circulating on his body. His transcendent coalescence Taoist physique has improved. The Dharma sect master's pupils shrank when he saw that. Now, he had reason to believe that Chu Kuangren had a high chance of forming the transcendent coalescence Taoist physique through his acquired enlightenment. Thank you, Senior. I've been bothering you for the past 2 days, so I should take my leave now. Chu Kuangren smiled. He was very satisfied with his trip to the Dharma sect. His one-sword technique had made great progress. The heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique was one step closer to becoming an emperor technique. Compared to the White Lotus Light of Purification and the Tao Tai technique, it was even stronger. Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's words, the Dharma sect master and the others felt rather upset. Chu Kuangren had only been in the Dharma sect for 2 days, but he had already learned all of the Dharma sect's techniques. On the other hand, they could not compare to a day's worth of effort even after cultivating bitterly for most of their lives. This kind of disparity was really too big. Little friend Chu, take care. I won't send you off. The Dharma headmaster smiled, but it was a forced smile. It was obvious that he was just as shocked as everyone else. All right, until we meet again. Chu Kuangren bowed slightly before he turned around and walked down the mountain with Lan Yu. Wherever he went, tens of thousands of Dharma sect disciples would look at him with complicated gazes. There was grief, admiration, and fanaticism. However, not many people would be jealous of him, because the gap between them was too great. It was so great that they weren't existences in the same world, and it was even so great that no one could be jealous of them. An era of great competition? That's just a joke. In an era of great competition, the stars will shine brightly, but this person is like a blazing sun in the sky. Who would be able to see the dimmed stars? Amongst the crowd, Taoist Yuan Hong let out a bitter laugh. Beside him, Su Tianyi and the others were also dejected and helpless. Ever since Chu Kuangren began to visit the various sage orthodoxies, many people had been paying close attention to his every move. It could not be helped, he was just too eye-catching. After a trip to the Royal Azure Dynasty, he became someone's son-in-law. After a trip to the school of White Lotus, he became a bachelor sage. After a trip to the Taishu Temple, he defeated an honorable supreme in a mental spar. Now, every cultivator in the Azure Dragon domain was guessing what kind of commotion Chu Kuangren would cause when he visited the other orthodoxies. Some of them had long become numb to Chu Kuangren's continuous actions. They felt that no matter what Chu Kuangren was going to do this time, they would be able to remain indifferent to it. However, when news of what happened in the Dharma sect spread, those cultivators who thought they could remain calm were also shocked. Comprehending the Steel Forest's 8,000 methods in half a day. You're telling me that this is something that a human can do? Even if the Steel Forest's 8,000 methods are all miraculous, it would still take him a few years to comprehend 10 of them in a day, right? 8,000 methods in half a day? Are you telling me a fairy tale? Impossible. When the news spread, most people's first reaction was disbelief. However, there were too many cultivators at the Steel Forest that day, and many of them had seen it with their own eyes. Coupled with the fact that various parties had verified it, it was soon confirmed. That was not all that was confirmed. Some people said that Chu Kuangren had won the mental spar with the Dharma sect master. Some even said that Chu Kuangren had spent less than a day to completely master all the Dharma sect's cultivation techniques. When the rumor was confirmed, everyone was shocked. Why was the Dharma sect called that? It was because they had too many cultivation techniques, and they covered a wide variety of them, covering 99% of the Taoists in the world. Even the previous Dharma sect masters did not dare to say that they could master all of them, yet Chu Kuangren had learned them all in 2 days? How could anyone not believe it? How could they not be shocked? Chu Kuangren, why didn't he ascend to the heavens? F*ck me, F*ck me, how can someone like this exist? Is he really an immortal who descended from the heavens? Otherwise, how could he be so terrifying? You don't say it's possible. I've been working hard for decades and only managed to learn one supreme technique, yet he managed to learn 8,000 in half a day? Is he trying to kill me? Scary, this is too scary. Oh my god, this guy is definitely a monster. The entire Azure Dragon domain fell into a state of shock. This shock affected the entire firmament star, and the whole world was shocked. No matter how many people believed it, there would always be people who doubted it. Learning 8,000 techniques in half a day? Only an emperor could do that. Chu Kuangren? Hey, he's still far from that. The new Taoist of the sacred lands of serene wisdom, Ao Chang, expressed his doubts. The Dharma sect is a sage orthodoxy. You're saying that you can learn all of their techniques in 2 days? Are you kidding me? Even if this is true, learning a technique doesn't mean you can use it. Learning so many techniques in one go will only add more shackles to your cultivation. Lin Batian from the Jiang Valley also spoke after Ao Chang. What he said was also supported by some people. Learning more techniques was not always better. There were many things to pay attention to, and learning too many would only make things complicated. Learning everything would only mean that one was not proficient in anything. A truly powerful cultivator usually only specialized in a few techniques. The Taoists from the sacred lands of serene wisdom and the Jiang Valley also voiced their doubts. Naturally, the Black Heaven sect behind Chu Kuangren would not sit idly by. Learning everything in one go? What a joke. Try learning 8,000 techniques in one go. Some people are really funny when they say that the grapes are sour when they can't eat it. Nangong Huang from the Black Heaven sect retorted. That's right. I've never heard of that newly appointed Taoist from the sacred lands of serene wisdom. How dare he come out and criticize our bachelor sage? The people from the school of White Lotus also voiced their support. Anyone who defames my husband is an enemy of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Princess Linglong from the Royal Azure Dynasty also spoke out publicly. Chapter 95. As soon as Chu Kuangren's support group spoke, the entire Azure Dragon domain no longer had any doubts. No one wanted to go against the 3 great sage orthodoxies, not even the sacred lands of serene wisdom or Jiang Valley. A few days after Chu Kuangren left the Dharma sect, another piece of news shook the Azure Dragon domain. Northern Lingdao's honorable orthodoxy, the Mountain River sect, had been destroyed. The supreme demon sect that wreaked havoc in the Azure Dragon domain 5,000 years ago had made a comeback. With that, a few sage orthodoxies could no longer sit still. The Supreme Demon sect was founded by a self-proclaimed Supreme Demon Honorable 5,000 years ago. Ever since it was founded, it had risen rapidly. However, due to its members being too bloodthirsty, it was destroyed by the alliance of several orthodoxies. Now that the sect had made a comeback, many people were reminded of the bloody days of the past, and they could not help but worry. Sigh, the Supreme Demon sect was too terrifying back then. Every single one of its members cultivated demonic Taoism. They did not cultivate merit or karma, and their methods were bloody and cruel. God knows how many lives were harmed by them. Yeah, it still hurts to think about it now. But isn't the Supreme Demon Honorable dead? Most of the people from the sect died in battle too. Why would the sect make a comeback? I heard that someone saw the Supreme Demon Honorable reappear. Impossible. It's true. Rumor has it that someone saw a young man in northern Lingdao who looked very similar to the Supreme Demon Honorable. He also used the Supreme Heavenly Demonic Great Technique. The entire Azure Dragon domain was in a heated discussion, and the orthodoxies began to move as well. They each sent people to northern Lingdao to investigate. 2 days later, the orthodoxies announced that they would begin a demonic extermination operation. They each sent people into northern Lingdao to eliminate the cultivators of the demonic sect. All of a sudden, the northern Lingdao state was in chaos. Chu Kuangren had also received a message from Honorable Xianqi, asking him to head to northern Lingdao as soon as possible to participate in the demonic extermination operation. Chu Kuangren did not reject the request and headed to northern Lingdao. Seventh forefather, was the supreme demon sect very strong back then? Chu Kuangren asked curiously on the ferry boat. He had flipped through some ancient books and seen records about the limitless demon sect. Every line of the book had exaggerated the terror of the limitless demon sect. Actually, it's not that strong. The seventh forefather's answer surprised Chu Kuangren. Not powerful? In that case, why did the Holy Lands join forces to deal with the limitless demon sect? Also, according to the records, the sage orthodoxies joined forces to fight against the limitless demon sect for 3 days and 3 nights, resulting in countless casualties. Heh! The seventh forefather suddenly chuckled. The devil sect is slightly weaker than the saint orthodoxy. It's just that they caused a bigger commotion back then. As for the saint orthodoxy joining forces, that's true, but it's just to increase their prestige. What? To increase my prestige? Yes, the methods of the limitless demon sect were indeed cruel. They caused the wrath of the heavens and the people and plunged the people into misery and suffering. If the sage orthodoxies took action to eliminate the demonic calamity, they would be able to win over the hearts of the people and increase their prestige, allowing their orthodoxy's luck to flourish. Therefore, none of the sage orthodoxies were willing to let go of this opportunity. As for the ancient records, the history books are written by the victors. The more terrifying the limitless demon sect is described, the more powerful the orthodoxies are, and the more prestige they have, right? The seventh forefather's words stunned Chu Kuangren. You can play this way? So the limitless demon sect was just a tool used by the sage orthodoxies to increase their reputation and prestige? He thought they were powerful. In other words, this demonic extermination mission is also a method used by the sage orthodoxies to increase their prestige, Chu Kuangren said. It's true that they want to increase their prestige, and so is the demonic extermination mission. At the same time, it's also a chance for the disciples of the sage orthodoxies to gain experience, the seventh forefather said. The northern Lingdao state was currently in a state of chaos. Due to the rumor of the reappearance of the supreme demonic honorable, the demonic cultivators who were lucky enough to escape the calamity and a large number of other demonic cultivators all came out to wreak havoc. These cultivators' methods were extremely cruel. They either consumed the flesh and blood of mortals to strengthen their cultivation, captured humans to feed their demonic beasts, or used human souls to refine demonic weapons. Some of them even simply loved killing and chaos. All in all, it was not an exaggeration to say that the northern Lingdao state was a living hell. The entire state was filled with mortals, and their lives were as worthless as grass. Cries could be heard everywhere in a town. A few demonic cultivators were commanding their demonic beasts to wreak havoc everywhere. Roar! One of the demonic beasts opened its mouth wide and bit a mortal. The mortal did not even have time to scream before he was bitten in half. His intestines and organs spilled all over the ground. Not far away, a child was crying his heart out. The demonic cultivators were laughing maniacally. Without those guys from the Mountain River sect, we can do whatever we want in the northern Lingdao state now. One of the demonic cultivators laughed as he sat on a demonic beast. The Mountain River sect used to be the orthodoxy that governed the northern Lingdao state. However, they were annihilated a few days ago. Rumor had it that it was done by the supreme demonic honorable himself. That was why these demonic cultivators dared to act so brazenly. To be honest, I don't have any feelings for the supreme demonic honorable. However, since he destroyed the Mountain River sect and gave us a piece of paradise, I'm willing to serve him as my master. A cultivator who had just joined the demonic path said. The others also nodded in agreement. Look, This beautiful wail is simply the most magnificent music in the world. Cry, scream, and please us as much as you want. That's the only reason for you mortals to exist." The demonic cultivator who was riding on the demonic beast laughed heartily. Buzz, suddenly, a sword ray came from afar. A terrifying Taoist rhyme locked onto the demonic cultivator and the demonic beast he was riding. The sword ray was extremely sharp. A mist of blood exploded and the demonic beast and the demonic cultivator were torn apart in the blink of an eye. "Who's there? Damn it! Show yourself." The remaining demonic cultivators were shocked. They looked towards the end of the sword ray and saw a young man in a white robe walking towards them from the end of the street. The young man was dressed in a white robe with wide sleeves. He was spotless and had an otherworldly aura. However, his expression was as cold as ice. "Immortal, please save us. Immortal, please have mercy on us." The people who were crying on the street looked at the young man with hope in their eyes. They immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed for help. When the demonic cultivators saw this, their faces turned vicious and they commanded their demonic beasts to charge at the young man. "Go to hell. Tear him to shreds." The demonic beast's aura was terrifying. Every step it took caused the ground to tremble. Compared to the demonic beast's mountain-like body, the young man's thin and frail figure was too insignificant. However, the young man's expression did not change at all. He continued to walk towards the demonic cultivators and shot out several purple sword rays from his body, easily killing the demonic beasts. "Oh no, he's definitely a nascent soul cultivator. We're no match for him." The demonic cultivators tried to escape without saying a word. However, as soon as they moved, they realized that they were frozen in the air and could not move at all. Chapter 96. The few demonic cultivators were immobilized in the void. The spatial force that only a Paradise Realm cultivator could master was not something that these Golden Core Realm cultivators could break free from. They were all terrified. Without saying a word, Chu Kuangren raised his hand and unleashed the gluttonous devouring technique. In an instant, the few of them were sucked into the avarice dimension, enduring the extreme pain of having their flesh and blood refined. Their screams echoed continuously. Whoosh! Lan Yu flapped her wings from afar, her body still emitting a cold, murderous aura. "Master, the others have been dealt with." "All right, let's go." Chu Kuangren nodded. "Thank you, Immortal. Thank you." Behind him, countless people's voices of gratitude could be heard. Chu Kuangren did not look back. Ever since he stepped into the northern Lingdao state, he had seen or experienced too many similar scenes. After leaving the village, Chu Kuangren continued to walk towards the center of the northern Lingdao state where the sky prides of the major sage orthodoxies were gathered. However, what Chu Kuangren found strange was, along the way, what he saw were mostly mortals wailing and the scenes of demonic cultivators running wild. As for the sage orthodoxies saving the world, it was very rare. Did they not agree to launch a demonic extermination operation? Did they not say that the major sage orthodoxies would send their people here? Where were they? Where the hell did they go? Chu Kuangren did not ask the seventh forefather or the other protectors because he already had some guesses in his mind. In a city of the northern Lingdao state, a group of demonic cultivators was wantonly plundering, killing, and looting resources. The streets were filled with wails and cries. For a single spirit stone, there were demonic path cultivators that killed a peddler's entire family. For the sake of venting their bestial desires, they would forcefully abduct women. For the sake of refining a demonic artifact, they would extract the souls of mortals and torture them to death. One city, one hell. Meanwhile, Nangong Huang was leading a group of people to defend against this group of people. With a swing of the sacred sword, Taoist rhymes filled the air, and a sword ray like a waterfall streaked across the void, instantly tearing a demonic cultivator in half. "No, there are too many of them." Nangong Huang's expression was grim. There were too many demonic cultivators, and they were not enough. "Damn it, those orthodoxies aren't sending anyone. How are we enough?" Murong Xian came to Nangong Huang's side and said, "Damn it. Even if the people from the limitless demon sect are still alive, it is impossible for them to develop so many people under the suppression of several great orthodoxies. This is not just the limitless demon sect, there are also cultivators from other demonic sects. The limitless demon venerable's treasure is truly tempting. At this moment, suddenly, a large amount of sword chi condensed in the sky, forming 12 sword chi pillars. Runes revolved around them, actually sealing off the entire city. What kind of power is this? Who is it? In the face of this power, all the cultivators there felt a terrifying and boundless pressure bearing down on them. Some of the demonic cultivators were even more horrified. Nangong Huang and Murong Xian looked at each other, their eyes filled with joy. 9 Heaven Sword Prison, this is eldest senior brother. Great, eldest senior brother is here. A white-robed figure stepped out from the clouds. He looked coldly at the demonic cultivators stirring up trouble in the city and shouted, "Die!" In the blink of an eye, countless sword chi crisscrossed through the 9 Heaven Sword Prison and accurately pinpointed those demonic cultivators, killing them one by one. The demonic cultivators who were originally excited and immersed in the joy of killing felt the fear of death and screamed out loud. "Oh no! D***minute, who the hell is he?" Boom! A hunchbacked old man broke free from the 9 Heaven Sword Prison's suppression, channeled his spiritual power, and charged towards Chu Kuangren, who was in the air. "Go to hell!" He blasted out a palm attack that turned into a horrifying giant black hand. That was a full-powered attack from a peak battle monarch. At the end of the street, a black-haired man also broke free from the sword prison's suppression. He waved a large sword and slashed out a sword chi. This is a sword physique transformation. If we don't kill this person, we won't be able to leave. Wretched whale technique. Go. On the other side, a white-haired old woman laughed sinisterly and channeled her spiritual power. A black mist rolled in front of her, forming a giant skull that attacked Chu Kuangren, who was in the air. 3 peak battle monarch energies instantly locked onto Chu Kuangren. In the city, the demonic cultivators were extremely excited. It's the Ghost Granny, the Blood-Devouring Blade, and the Een Mountain Elder. These 3 are famous cultivators in the demonic orthodoxy. That's great, they'll definitely be able to kill this guy. That's right, we're saved. A brat like him won't be able to stop us. In mid-air, Chu Kuangren's expression was incomparably cold in the face of the 3 great demonic orthodoxies' encirclement. However, an extremely mysterious Taoist rhyme suddenly emanated from his body and formed white lotuses in the void. The white lotuses surrounded the void, making Chu Kuangren look even more holy. When the 3 energies landed on the white lotuses, there was no earth-shattering explosion. Instead, the violent energies were disintegrated and dispersed by the white lotus light of purification. In the void, it dissipated like a spring breeze. Even an honorable could not break through the white lotus light of purification's defense, let alone these battle monarch demonic cultivators. How is this possible? How did he do it? What technique is this? The 3 demonic cultivators' pupils shrank. No run. The black-haired man knew that he and the others were no match for Chu Kuangren, so he immediately turned around and fled. However, he had nowhere to run in the 9 Heaven Sword Prison. Chu Kuangren looked up and the Descendant Self Sword appeared in his hand. With a wave of his hand, a purple sword ray suddenly erupted and slashed across the sky. The sword ray was extremely swift and domineering. The black-haired man turned around and used his sword to block the attack. However, all that was heard was a clang, and the man and his sword were sliced in half. A sword attack that killed a peak battle monarch. This kind of earth-shattering battle prowess frightened all the demonic cultivators. It also made the Black Heaven sect disciples extremely excited. Elder Senior Brother is so strong. It's been a while since we last met, but Elder Senior Brother has improved by leaps and bounds. Another 2 sword attacks were unleashed. The Ghost Granny and the Een Mountain Elder were also killed in an instant. If that was the case for the 3 of them, then the rest of the demonic cultivators were even worse off. Within the 9 Heaven Sword Prison, Sword Chi flew around and killed all the demonic cultivators. Cries of agony could be heard as demonic blood dyed the streets red. The people did not feel any sympathy for the demonic cultivators. Instead, their eyes were filled with unforgettable hatred. They could not wait to kill these demonic cultivators who harmed their families and friends with their own hands. A moment later, all the demonic cultivators in the city were killed by Chu Kuangren. Elder's senior brother. Nangong Huang walked up to Chu Kuangren. Why are you guys the only ones here? Where are the others? They're all in the Mountain River City. The demonic cultivators are wreaking havoc in the world. Why aren't they here? Didn't they say that they're going to start a demonic extermination operation? Chu Kuangren said coldly. Nangong Huang, Mrong Xian, and the others looked at each other with anger in their eyes. They're busy enjoying themselves now. They don't have time to deal with this. What's going on? They think that the northern Lingdao state is not chaotic enough. If they attack now, they'll only gain limited prestige. They're waiting for the demonic onslaught to get bigger before they attack. A bunch of B** stards. Murong Xian said angrily. Chu Kuangren was not surprised at all when he heard that. He sighed in his heart. As expected. Seventh forefather, when the demonic Vow sect was wreaking havoc a few thousand years ago, did the other sage orthodoxies do the same? Chapter 97. Cultivators and Mortals. These were two distinct groups with clear boundaries. Cultivators possessed powers that mortals could never hope to achieve, and they were high above the masses. In the eyes of mortals, cultivators were no different from immortals. Naturally, cultivators would develop a sense of superiority. To most cultivators, the lives of mortals were not worth mentioning. If it were not for the invisible constraints of karma, and luck, most cultivators would not be any better off than demonic cultivators. Just like now. A few sage orthodoxies wanted to use this demonic onslaught to increase their prestige, gain merit, and luck. Hence, the more violent the demonic onslaught was, the more benefits they would receive after dealing with it. As for how many people would die in the process, they did not really care. After all, it was not their doing. Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's question, the seventh forefather fell silent for a while before he sighed. Indeed, there are many cultivators like this in the sage orthodoxies. Chu Kuangren nodded. I understand. The Mountain River City was where the Mountain River sect used to be. After the Mountain River sect was destroyed, the city was plunged into chaos. It was only after a few sage orthodoxies joined forces and temporarily took over the city that the situation started to improve. At this time, in a restaurant in the city, people were singing and dancing, and the sound of toasts and drinks could be heard. On the contrary, outside the restaurant, there were many people who had lost their homes, clothes, and food due to the demonic onslaught. Come Li Ren, propose a toast to all the sky prides here. During the demonic onslaught, all of you are willing to step forward and save the people. You are truly righteous. At the banquet, a middle-aged man in luxurious robes raised his cup and smiled. In front of him were the sky prides from Jiang Valley, the sacred lands of serene wisdom, and the Five Ways sect. You're too kind, Li family head. It's our duty to eliminate demons and protect the righteous path. Fang Tian of the Five Ways sect said righteously. Those who did not know better would think that he had killed many demonic cultivators and saved many people. You're right, Fang'un. Li family head smiled and nodded. He then hesitated before he said, this demonic onslaught has been going on for 7 days now. I wonder when everyone plans to take action. If this goes on, I'm afraid the northern Lingdao state will not be able to hold on any longer. Li family head was cursing in his heart when he said that. This group of so-called heaven's favorites had been in the Mountain River City for a few days, but they did not contribute much. Instead, they ate, drank, and played around. Let's wait for a few more days. Right now, it's not just the people of the Limitless Demon sect who are here, there are also a large number of other demonic cultivators. But when these people are almost here, I'll capture them all in one fell swoop. Gu Changa drank a glass of wine and said indifferently, "That's right. There's something fishy about the appearance of the demonic cultivators this time. We heard that these people are looking for the sage ruler weapon of the limitless demonic honorable. It won't be too late for us to act after they find it." Lin Badian said. Over the past few days, they had found out that the limitless demon venerable had not come back to life. The ones who had destroyed the Mountain River sect were a youth who resembled the limitless demon venerable and a mysterious old man. The two of them were after the sage ruler weapon that the limitless demon venerable used to dominate the world. The news spread quickly among the demonic cultivators, causing all the demonic cultivators in the Azure Dragon domain to rush to the northern Lingdao state. TSK, the sage ruler weapon, the demonic spear of apocalypse. The limitless demon venerable was so powerful that he could defeat a sage. But after the death of the limitless demon venerable, the spear's whereabouts were unknown. I can't believe it's hidden in the northern Lingdao state. The White Lotus bachelor's eyes were burning with excitement. That was a sage ruler weapon. It was much more powerful than the average sage weapon. A sage weapon was enough to make countless cultivators go crazy for it, let alone a sage ruler weapon. At the banquet, the Sky Prides were talking about how powerful the sage ruler weapon was, but none of them said anything about sending troops. Li family head saw this and was anxious. "Let me in." At that moment, a young man rushed in and looked at the Sky Prides at the banquet angrily. "The Taoist of the Mountain River sect? Oh, what's the matter?" Gu Changa glanced at him and said coldly. The young man was the only surviving Taoist from the Mountain River sect. He looked at the table full of delicacies and wine in front of him and said while suppressing his anger, "I'm here to ask you guys, when are you going to attack?" "Taoist, don't worry. We'll attack when it's time. When it's time to attack. When most of the people in the northern Lingdao state are dead." The Mountain River Taoist asked. "How dare you? Don't forget that the northern Lingdao state was reduced to this state because of the Mountain River sect's incompetence. We're here to help you clean up the mess, and this is how you treat us?" A Taoist from the sacred lands of serene wisdom snorted. The Mountain River Taoist's face turned green. It's the Mountain River sect's incompetence that allowed the demonic onslaught to spread. But you guys just sit back and watch the people die and the people lose their homes. You're a sage orthodoxy. What a joke. We didn't care about this and let the northern Lingdao state perish on its own. Now that we're here, not only are you not grateful, you even dare to question us here. Don't you think that's too much? You're the ones who are too much. For the past few days, the Mountain River City has done its best to entertain you. The Li family, the Wang family, the Zhang family, and the other aristocratic families have sacrificed all of their wealth to beg for your help. But what have you been doing? You've received the benefits but you've done nothing? You're worse than the common peddlers in the mortal world. What demonic extermination mission? It's all a joke. The Mountain River Taoist gritted his teeth as he glared at the Sky Prides before him. His anger was about to overflow. Mountain River Taoist, please understand the situation. If you provoke us, the longer we wait, the more people will die in the northern Lingdao state. Every word you say now concerns the lives of millions of people. Are you sure you want to continue? Gu Changa said calmly, her eyes turning cold. You're threatening me. The Mountain River Taoist's face darkened. So what if I am? At this point, the Sky Prides could not be bothered to pretend to be gentlemen anymore. They looked at the Mountain River Taoist with a mocking expression. Clap, clap, clap. At that moment, a round of applause rang out. Outside the room, a white-robed young man slowly walked in with a few people. The Sky Pride's expressions changed when they saw him. They could no longer sit still and stood up to stare at the newcomer. Chu Kuangren. It's Chu Kuangren, he's here. Chu Kuangren walked into the room and glanced at the people there. He smiled and said, "You guys seem to be in a good mood. You're still having a banquet, and the food looks pretty good. It's much better than the beggars I saw when I first came in. They are miserable. They don't have enough to eat, and they don't even have a complete set of clothes, unlike you guys who are wearing silk and satin clothes. TSK, this dog looks a bit like a human in these clothes." Gu Chang'e and the others' expressions changed when they heard that. How could they not understand that Chu Kuangren was indirectly calling them dogs? Chu Kuangren, don't be too presumptuous. One of the Sky Pride said coldly. However, Chu Kuangren did not even spare him a glance. Instead, he slapped the air and a terrifying spiritual power landed on that Sky Pride's head. Chapter 98. Chu Kuangren attacked without warning, scaring many people at the scene. Everyone stared at him with fear in their eyes. Chu Kuangren, how dare you hit me? The Sky Pride who was slapped stood up and roared in anger. So what if I hit you? Do you have to pick a day? Chu Kuangren said indifferently before he gave him another backhand slap. This slap sent him flying out of the restaurant. The Mountain River Taoist, Li family head, and the others looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. That was a Taoist from a sage orthodoxy? How could he just slap him like that? However, they had to admit that it was so satisfying. Chu Kuangren, what are you trying to do? Gu Chang'e asked coldly. Nothing much. I'm here today to inform you that from now on, I'm temporarily taking over the Mountain River City. But you think you can take over just because you say so? I've said it before. I'm only here to inform you. I don't need your permission, Chu Kuangren said. Chu Kuangren, do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're strong? Without our people, how are you going to take over the Mountain River City? Gu Chang'e smiled in disdain. Suddenly, the communication compass in his yin and yang ring vibrated. He took it out and a message was sent. All cultivators heading to the northern Lingdao state, listen to Chu Kuangren's orders. The royal Azure dynasty ruler's voice came from the communication compass. Gu Chang'e's expression changed when he heard that. Not only him, but the White Lotus bachelor sage beside him also received the same message. I'm the fiancé of the royal Azure dynasty and the bachelor sage of the school of White Lotus. I'll take over your people as well. Chu Kuangren glanced at them before he turned around and left. Chu Kuangren. Gu Chang'e gritted his teeth as he watched Chu Kuangren leave. At the banquet, Li family head looked at the scene thoughtfully. Then he wisely chose to give up on Gu Chang'e and the others and followed Chu Kuangren. On the street, Li family head caught up to Chu Kuangren. Brother Chu, I'm the Mountain River City Li family head. May I know when you're going to send your people? I've sent cultivators from the Black Heaven sect, the School of White Lotus, and the Royal Azure dynasty to eliminate the demonic onslaught. That's fast. Li family head was overjoyed. Finally, a reliable prodigy had arrived. He had heard many rumors about Chu Kuangren, so he knew that if Chu Kuangren truly wanted to save the entire state, he would be much more useful than Gu Chang'e and the others. The Li family is at fellow Taoist Chu's disposal. Patriarch Li immediately expressed his attitude. In this world, there were many cultivators who viewed mortals as weeds, but there were also cultivators who rose up from weeds and viewed mortals as equals. The Li family was one such family of cultivators. Brother Chu is kind-hearted, much better than Gu Chang'e and those so-called heaven's favorites, the Mountain River Taoist said. It's just something that's within my power. To Chu Kuangren, the lives of mortals were also lives. Immortals were also humans. The path of cultivation that he wanted to walk was not the merciless path that treated human lives as grass and all living beings as ants. Naturally, he would not ignore the demonic plague. On my way here, I heard that all the demonic cultivators in northern Lingdao are looking for a sage ruler weapon. Can you tell me more about it? Chu Kuangren thought of something and asked. Of course. The Mountain River Taoist and Patriarch Li told Chu Kuangren a lot, especially the Mountain River Taoist, whose eyes were filled with hatred when he spoke. Before the Supreme Demonic Honorable died, he left behind a sage ruler weapon, the demonic spear of Apocalypse. Rumor has it that this demonic spear appeared in northern Lingdao 2,000 years ago, but it was sealed by the forefather of my Mountain River sect. And that's why our Mountain River sect is facing such a calamity. The Mountain River Taoist clenched his fists and said, Do you know where this spear is? I don't know. That spear was sealed by our forefather, so no one knows where it is except for him. Besides, Our forefather has passed away a long time ago. Does that mean no one knows where it is? Yes. Chu Kuangren nodded thoughtfully. The next day, Chu Kuangren took over the mountain river city. He ordered the Li family and the other families to open up the city and take in the refugees from all over. In an instant, the mountain river city was filled with refugee camps. This move also displeased a few cultivators from the sage orthodoxies. Every time they walked on the streets, they would see refugees dressed in rags and smelly. How could they, who had been living a comfortable life, tolerate that? Boom! A few terrifying auras came from outside Chu Kuangren's courtyard. The Five Ways sect, the Jiang Valley, the Dharma sect, the Taishu Temple, the Sacred Lands of Serene Wisdom, and a few other scattered sky prides had all arrived. Chu Kuangren, come out! Fang Tian of the Five Ways sect yelled. With a creak, the door opened. However, before anyone could see who it was, a dense Taoist rime erupted and a white ray of light shot out. Fang Tian's pupils shrank as he hurriedly activated his Five Ways Taoist Tao and unleashed a dazzling spiritual power. When the two energies collided, Fang Tian was forcefully pushed back a few meters, and his face turned pale. A figure walked out from the courtyard. It was Lan Yu. She glanced at the crowd coldly. You guys are too noisy. Why are you barking so early in the morning? Can't you guys let us rest? Chu Kuangren also walked out. Chu Kuangren, now that there are so many refugees in the mountain river city, how are we supposed to move around? You must give us an explanation. Fang Tian said coldly. Move around? What kind of move do you guys want? Do you want to host a banquet in a restaurant? Or do you want to go to a brothel? Chu Kuangren sneered as he swept his cold gaze across the cultivators. No matter what, you've gone too far by letting so many refugees into the city. There's a lot of empty land outside the city. Why don't you let them stay there? Yuan Hong suggested. How's it? Looks like you guys are used to living like princes here. Have you guys seen the situation outside? Demonic cultivators and beasts are everywhere. Letting them stay outside is no different from sending them to their deaths. Chu Kuangren sneered. So what? It's just a few people dying. When the time comes, we'll naturally take action to eradicate the demonic onslaught. That's right, Chu Kuangren. You must let these refugees leave the city today. Otherwise, we won't take action against this demonic onslaught. That's right. Do you really think you can do it alone? The group of Sky Prides said. Chu Kuangren only felt that it was ridiculous. Were these cultivators really here to eradicate the demonic onslaught? Even without you guys, I can still eradicate the demonic onslaught, Chu Kuangren said in a firm tone. With a flick of his sleeves, a violent surge of sword chi gushed out and blasted the group of cultivators in front of him a few dozen feet away. Now all of you scram. Chu Kuangren, you really think you're invincible? We'll fight you. A few of the Sky Prides made their moves. They had heard all kinds of rumors about Chu Kuangren, but that was just that. Today, they wanted to test his capabilities. Not good. No! Yuan Hong, Fang Tian, and a few other Sky Prides who had witnessed Chu Kuangren's capabilities immediately wanted to stop him. They came here to demand an explanation, but they had never thought of fighting him. After all, Chu Kuangren's strength was already deeply engraved in their hearts. However, they were one step too late. The few Sky Prides rushed in front of Chu Kuangren, their Taoist rhymes and violent spiritual powers surged out in unison. However, when Chu Kuangren looked up, the few of them were instantly frozen in midair. The Taoist techniques that they had cast were instantly dispersed. Chapter 99. Does anyone else have a problem with me? Chu Kuangren said coldly. After killing a few prodigies, the crowd kept quiet out of fear. At that moment, a ripple appeared in the void, and a few peak battle monarchs charged out, glaring at Chu Kuangren. Aren't you a little too cruel? You killed someone just because you didn't agree with them. How are you any different from a devil cultivator? Chu Kuangren, you've crossed the line. These battle kings were the protectors of those geniuses. A battle monarch level protector meant that the power behind these geniuses was at most an honorable orthodoxy. Chu Kuangren sneered. Brutal? Let's be clear, they were the ones who attacked first, and they didn't hold back. How can I not fight back? If you're not convinced, you can make a move as well. Chu Kuangren did not back down in the face of a few battle monarchs. After all, he had killed quite a number of battle monarchs along the way. The few battle monarchs wore gloomy expressions, but they did not make a move. They were not afraid of Chu Kuangren, but the Taoist protector behind him was not someone they could fight against. The Tao protector wouldn't easily intervene in the affairs of the younger generation, but if they bullied the young, the Tao protector wouldn't just sit back and watch. In fact, these people were thinking too much. Even if they did, the seventh forefather and the others would not do anything. That was because they knew how terrifying Chu Kuangren's combat strength was now. If he could even kill an honorable, what more a few battle monarchs? In the end, none of the battle monarchs made a move. Chu Kuangren, you're still as arrogant as ever. At that moment, Lin Badian from the Jiang Valley spoke with a cold look on his face. Chu Kuangren glanced at him and was surprised to see that he had a head full of purple hair. Oh, where did you get your hair made from? Oomph. Lin Ban harumphed coldly as a terrifying Taoist rhyme exuded from his body, causing the sky prides at the scene to turn pale. Fang Tian, Gu Chang'e, and the others looked at Lin Badian in shock. How did his Taoist rhyme change? Such a powerful aura. What's going on? How did he become so terrifying in such a short period of time? Even supremacies might not be able to compare to this Taoist aura. Chu Kuangren chuckled. It's only been a few days since we last met, but it seems like you've mastered some decent techniques. No wonder you have the confidence to face me directly. Runes circulated in his eyes as he activated the Eye of Revelation. Lin Badian, Violet Sun Valley Taoist. Control the sacred fire left behind by the ancestor of Ziyang Valley, Holy Flame? Was this a technique left behind by a saint? Chu Kuangren chuckled. Come, let me see how powerful this so-called sacred flame of yours is. Let's see if it can even hurt me. Lin Badian frowned. He did not know how Chu Kuangren knew about the sacred flame, but he could not wait to spar with him. Streaks of rainbow-colored flames emerged from his body, each of which contained the power to burn rivers and boil seas. Chu Kuangren, I have to endure the pain of being burned by 10,000 flames. I risked my life to obtain the seven-colored sacred flame. Today, I'll let you try its power. Lin Badian roared as the seven-colored sacred flame shot out like a meteor, distorting the space in its path. When everyone felt the power of the sacred flame, their expressions changed and they quickly retreated, afraid that they would be affected by it. The flame was too terrifying. The sacred flame was an item left behind by a sage, so it contained the sage's Taoist rhymes. Even if Lin Badian's cultivation level was not high enough to fully utilize it, just a wisp of it was enough to rival an honorable. Chu Kuangren gently raised his hand, and a vast and boundless power instantly erupted. The mysterious Taoist rhymes formed white lotuses in the air. The white lotuses were beautiful and looked delicate, but the sacred flame could not break through them. In less than a breath's time, the sacred flame had disintegrated into nothingness. That scene shocked many sky prides. What technique is that? It can dispel spiritual power. How did he do that? He can even dispel the power of the sacred flame. The crowd was shocked. Among the crowd, the White Lotus Bachelor Sage took a deep breath. That's the supreme sage ruler technique of the school of White Lotus, the White Lotus Light of Purification. The crowd was shocked. How did Chu Kuangren learn the school of White Lotus Sage ruler technique? Why had no one from the school of White Lotus used that technique before? Was that the reason Chu Kuangren was named a bachelor sage? The White Lotus Bachelor Sage did not say much. He looked at Chu Kuangren, who was surrounded by white lotuses, and felt a sense of worship. That was the instinctive reaction of the school of White Lotus disciples to the White Lotus Light of Purification. No matter how displeased he was, Chu Kuangren could not resist it. I'd like to see how many attacks you can take. Lin Badian snorted and continued to attack Chu Kuangren with his sacred flame. However, no matter how he attacked, his sacred flame would disintegrate within 10 feet of Chu Kuangren. It could not hurt Chu Kuangren at all. Lin Batian began to panic. How could this be? The sacred flame that he had risked his life to master was useless against Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's strength had far exceeded his imagination. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe you're truly invincible. Lin Batian roared as he channeled all of his spiritual power into the sacred flame. An incredibly violent surge of Taoist rhyme erupted. Sage technique, heavenly blaze prairie. The sacred flame around Lin Batian condensed into one and surged towards Chu Kuangren. That surge of energy finally broke through the 10 feet radius around Chu Kuangren. 10 feet, 90 feet. However, at 90 feet, the sacred flame still dissipated. Everyone, including Lin Batian himself, was dumbfounded. Lin Batian had risked his life to advance only 10 feet, but Chu Kuangren had not moved a single step since the beginning. The gap between them was just too huge. Lin Batian's Taoist core was shaken, and his face was pale as he stared at Chu Kuangren. He felt like there was a mountain pressing against his chest, and he could barely breathe. He had thought that he could close the gap between him and Chu Kuangren by obtaining the sacred flame, and it was not impossible for him to fight Chu Kuangren. However, what was going on? Chu Kuangren could crush him just by standing there. The gap between their strengths made him feel hopeless. Lin Batian was not the only one who felt hopeless. The other Sky Prides felt the same way too. It's my turn now. Chu Kuangren glanced at Lin Batian before he raised his arm and unleashed a sword chi. The purple sword ray was so powerful that even though Lin Batian had used all of his strength to block it, he was still sent flying hundreds of feet away. The violent sword chi that dispersed from the attack even left dozens of bloody wounds on his body. Lin Batian was defeated with a single sword attack. Everyone fell silent when they saw that. Everyone else had worked themselves to the bone and could not even hurt a single hair on Chu Kuangren's body. Yet Chu Kuangren could injure his opponent with a single sword attack. Unparalleled defense and unparalleled attack. It was simply unbeatable. Chu Kuangren, you're really strong. At that moment, a ray of light came from afar and landed in front of everyone. That person was wearing a black robe, and a powerful aura emanated from his body. It was extremely domineering. It's him, the newly appointed Taoist of the sacred lands of serene wisdom, Ao Chang. Someone recognized that person. Chapter 100. Chu Kuangren had heard some rumors about the ancient Sky Prides. According to legend, it had been 150,000 years since the Near Ancient Era. This was an era where the Emperor's path had been severed and the Great Tao had not appeared. Countless Heaven's Prides were unable to become emperors. Therefore, some Heaven's Prides chose to seal themselves and hibernate, waiting for the great battle to arrive before awakening. It was obvious that Ao Chang was an ancient Sky Pride. Interesting. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. How much stronger would a Sky Pride from the ancient times be compared to a present-day Sky Pride? As he used his eye of revelation to analyze further, Chu Kuangren realized that Ao Chang's combat strength was much stronger than a young emperor like Lei Ao. He even mastered 3 sage ruler techniques, which was extremely powerful. Chu Kuangren, I've always wanted to meet you. Being stared at by Chu Kuangren, Ao Chang did not know why, but he had a feeling that he was being seen through. He was very upset, so he channeled his spiritual power and released a powerful Taoist rhyme. He raised his hand, and the surrounding void shook. It was as if a boulder had been thrown into a lake, creating huge waves. The terrifying might made one's scalp go numb. A young emperor? He's definitely a young emperor-level genius. No, he might even be stronger than the average young emperor. F***ck me, there are only 8 young emperors in this world, but why are there so many young emperors popping up recently? The world of great battles is indeed extraordinary. In the face of Ao Chang's domineering aura, Chu Kuangren was very calm. He even hooked his finger at the other party, obviously provoking him. Upon seeing that, Ao Chang could no longer hold himself back. His Taoist rhymes erupted and his spiritual power surged as he threw a punch at Chu Kuangren. The violent spiritual power and Taoist rhymes formed an extremely terrifying grand sun in the void. It was extremely firm and domineering. Sage ruler magic, sunfall. The void rumbled. The great sun fist landed on the white lotuses in the sky. The terrifying spiritual energy impacted the white lotuses, while the white lotuses continued to break down the great sun fist. The two Taoist rhymes continued to collide with each other, creating a dazzling scene. However, just like Lin Baishan's Saint Flame, Ao Chang's punch was only able to disintegrate the white lotus before it was purified. Chu Kuangren remained standing where he was, calm and unruffled. The ancient geniuses are only SOSO. Chu Kuangren shook his head and said disappointedly, "This white lotus has such a strong defense." Ao Chang's pupils shrank. He was surprised and his eyes turned serious. He had thought that in this era, there were no sky prides worthy of his attention, not even the young emperors. However, Chu Kuangren was different. This was definitely a formidable opponent. Ao Chang pondered for a while before he chuckled. "Chu Kuangren, since you know that I'm an ancient sky pride, then you should also know that this era of great battles is not prepared for you. It's for us. The prodigies of your era are too weak. When the ancient sky prides awaken one by one, that will be the true beginning of the era of great battles. Chu Kuangren, when that time comes, I'll fight you again." Ao Chang's words shocked all the sky prides present. This was a world of great competition. They were fortunate to be born in this era, but unfortunately, this era wasn't prepared for them. This was truly too despairing. After saying that, Ao Chang turned around to leave. However, Chu Kuangren suddenly said, "Wait. Oh, do you want to fight again? I don't think it's appropriate for you to punch me just now. I should return the favor, so I think I should return the favor." Chu Kuangren lifted his gaze slightly with the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand. Then he raised his arm and slashed out with the Descendant Self-Sword. A dazzling purple sword ray erupted like a flood. That sword attack could devour the heavens and the earth, as if it could destroy everything in its path. Not good. Sage ruler technique, divine mountain shield. Ao Chang's expression changed slightly. Then he channeled the spiritual power within his body and a mysterious Taoist rhyme appeared, forming a majestic godly mountain in front of him. The thick godly mountain had top-notch defensive capabilities. However, when that sword attack landed on the godly mountain, the void shook violently. The impact from the collision of the two forces was like an endless hurricane that swept out in all directions. Many of the cultivators at the scene were swept away. Then, a loud explosion was heard. The godly mountain shattered, and the Taoist rhyme dissipated. The domineering purple sword ray struck Ao Chang and sent him flying. A large amount of blood gushed out like a rain of blood. "You can't even take a single sword attack from me. Do you think you're worthy to fight me? Also, let me give you a friendly reminder. I'm here in this era. If you ancient sky prides like you obediently sleep, nothing will happen to you. But if you want to come out and cause trouble, I'll let you know the true meaning of despair." Chu Kuangren looked at Ao Chang and said word by word, who did not know how to talk back. "Do." Ao Chang was enraged and wanted to refute. "You what? Get out of here." Chu Kuangren's sword chi flowed on the tip of his sword, and a boundlessly sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme filled the air. No one dared to talk back to him. Ao Chang knew that he was no match for Chu Kuangren, so he dragged his injured body and left the scene. "Chu Kuangren, just you wait. Once I recover to my peak, I'll make you pay." Ao Chang roared in his heart, his face as gloomy as water. After he left, the other sky prides at the scene also left one by one. As for the purpose of their trip, it was impossible for them to achieve it. D****. That Chu Kuangren is just too powerful. We can't even fight back against him. One of the sky prides from the orthodoxy said unwillingly. "Do we really have to stay with these stinky beggars?" A cultivator said as he looked at the refugees on the street with dissatisfaction. His face was full of disdain. "No, I can't take it anymore. How about this? Let's not send out any troops and let Chu Kuangren deal with those demonic cultivators himself. I'd like to see how he's going to deal with all the demonic cultivators in the entire state with his few subordinates. That's right. So what if he's strong? He won't be able to deal with so many demonic cultivators with his few subordinates. When the time comes, he'll still have to come to us for help. That's right. The Sky Prides from the other orthodoxies had decided not to attack. They wanted to use this opportunity to force Chu Kuangren to give in. At this time, Chu Kuangren had arrived at a wasteland. To be more precise, this was the ruins of the Mountain River sect. Ever since the Mountain River sect was destroyed, the entire honorable orthodoxy was plundered by the demonic cultivators in just a day. Now, not even a single soul stone could be found in this wasteland. Only the dilapidated walls and ruins could be seen, as if they were telling of the past glory. Master, why did we come here? Lan Yu asked curiously. Lan Yu, if you were to seal a sage ruler demonic weapon, where would you choose to put it? Of course, a place where I can rest assured. What place can you rest assured the most? A place where I can see it but no one else knows. Lan Yu frowned as he voiced out his thoughts. That's right. Chu Kuangren nodded. Master, do you mean that the ancestors of the Mountain River sect might have sealed the supreme demonic honorable sage ruler weapon within their orthodoxy? But this place seems to have been ransacked by someone, Lan Yu said. Perhaps there's a place that no one else can find. Chu Kuangren smiled and activated his treasure locating skill. Chapter 101. There's a sage ruler weapon hidden 3 kilometers underground. The information obtained from the treasure locating skill was relayed to Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. I found it. Damn, it's buried 3 kilometers underground and has a seal to conceal its aura. If not for my treasure locating skill, even an honorable supreme would not be able to find it. The next step is to find a way to get it out. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu leaped into the air and activated the 3 Taoist physique transformations. A terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme surrounded his body. Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. A purple sword ray descended from the sky and struck the ground. With a loud bang, the earth shook and the mountains shook. The entire Mountain River city shook a few times because of this. Everyone looked into the distance in confusion. What's going on? It's coming from the direction of the Mountain River sect. And this Taoist rhyme, it's Chu Kuangren. What is he up to this time? Let's go take a look. The cultivators in the city rushed towards the direction of the Mountain River sect. Before they could get close, another terrifying explosion erupted in the Mountain River sect. Another domineering sword chi descended from the sky. One after another, the sword rays continued to strike down. F***CK, is this guy trying to split open the mountain? Is there something at the bottom of the mountain? Inside the Mountain River sect, Chu Kuangren continuously activated his sword chi. The Mountain River sect was already in ruins, but because of his actions, it was now in ruins. An enormous, bottomless crack appeared on the ground. Phew, one more. Chu Kuangren swung his sacred sword and a violent sword chi descended. The sword chi cut into the pitch-black crack and shattered as if it had hit an invisible barrier. The remaining sword chi then dissipated. Upon closer inspection, yellow runes appeared in the pitch-black crack. They were glowing and there was earth chi flowing around them. Brother Chu, what are you doing? At that moment, the Mountain River Taoist rushed over and questioned Chu Kuangren. After all, the Mountain River sect was his orthodoxy. Although it had been destroyed, he still had feelings for this place. He could not bear to see it being destroyed. However, he then noticed something strange underground. He looked at the yellow runes and exclaimed, "This is my Mountain River sect's seal." It's good that you're here. Do you know how to break this seal? Chu Kuangren glanced at him and asked. This is a restriction set up by my Mountain River sect using earth chi. Unless one's strength surpasses that of the person who set it up, or if one uses earth chi to attack it, it will be very difficult to break. Although the Mountain River Taoist didn't understand the situation, he still explained. Little fellow, do you need my help? The seventh forefather's voice rang out from the void. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Let me do it myself. He soared into the sky and performed a mysterious hand sign. A thick and majestic Taoist rhyme surged and began to gather the earth qi from all directions. Boundless earth qi converged to form an immemorial divine mountain and smashed out with a loud rumble. Sage ruler technique, human mountain stamp. Seeing this, Taoist mountain river's expressions suddenly changed. To be able to control earthen qi of this scale, what a mysterious Taoist technique. The mountain river sect was proficient in manipulating earth qi, but even they did not have such a Tao technique. Boom! The divine mountain formed by the earth qi smashed onto the restrictive spell in the crack. Instantly, a large amount of earth qi rushed out of the crack. The mountain river restriction was broken. At the same time, the earth qi was mixed with a black pillar of qi. That pillar of qi emitted an incredibly powerful Taoist rhyme that made one's scalp tingle. The terrifying demonic qi instantly swept out in all directions. This aura, it's a demonic weapon. Wait a minute, could it be the supreme demonic honorable's demonic spear of apocalypse? That's impossible. The entire mountain river sect has been turned upside down, but no one has found a trace of the demonic spear. How did Chu Kuangren find it? It's underground. It's hidden underground. How did he find it? Everyone looked at the crack, their expressions changing. Some of them even revealed looks of greed. After all, that was a sage ruler weapon. There were probably only a few of them in the entire firmament star. Unfortunately, because of Chu Kuangren, none of them dared to make a move. The earth qi and demonic qi gradually dispersed. Everyone could now clearly see what was beneath the crack. Deep in the ground, there was a dark red spear with runes circling it and surges of terrifying Taoist rhymes. It was the sage ruler weapon, the demonic spear of apocalypse. So this is a sage ruler weapon? It really is extraordinary. Back in the day, the Supreme Demonic Honorable was able to dominate the Azure Dragon domain largely because of this spear. However, legend has it that even the Supreme Demonic Honorable himself could not fully unleash the power of this spear. Nonsense, this is a sage ruler weapon we're talking about. The Supreme Demonic Honorable has yet to become a sage, so how could he fully unleash the spear's power? The reason why the demonic onslaught in the northern Lingdao state has attracted countless demonic cultivators from afar is all because of this demonic spear. Countless cultivators gulped as they stared at the demonic spear. It was as if a voice echoed in their hearts, "Get it, get it, I don't care anymore. This spear is mine." Some cultivators could no longer hold back their desire as they dashed towards the crack in a flash. However, before he could get close, a sword ray flashed past and that cultivator was instantly killed by Chu Kuangren. However, the killing did not deter the other cultivators. One after another, they dashed towards the demonic spear with bloodshot eyes. No, this demonic spear must be mine. No matter how strong Chu Kuangren is, he's just one person. Kill. The demonic spear is destined to belong to me. In the blink of an eye, dozens of cultivators dashed out from the crowd. Chu Kuangren frowned as he looked at their frenzied expressions. As expected of a demonic spear, its ability to seduce people's hearts is not to be underestimated. The demonic spear lived up to its name. If one's Taoist core was not strong enough, one would be tempted by it like these cultivators and fall into a frenzy without realizing it. Chu Kuangren took a step forward and arrived at the depths of the crack before the others. Then he unleashed his 9-heaven sword prison. Inside the sword prison, all the cultivators were frozen in the void, unable to move. One by one, they were killed by Chu Kuangren's sword qi. Chu Kuangren, hand over the demonic spear. That's right, this is not something you should have. Be *starred, you're the lead disciple of a sage orthodoxy. You're a peerless genius with many treasures on you. Why do you still want to snatch this demonic spear from us? Are you not going to leave us any room for negotiation? The remaining cultivators looked at Chu Kuangren and cursed him. One of the battle monarch took a step forward. A large amount of spiritual power surged from his body, and a violent surge of Taoist rhymes instantly gushed out. No one can stop me from taking this demonic spear. That battle monarch raised his hand and attacked Chu Kuangren. The palm attack swept across the sky. Idiot! Chu Kuangren yelled as sword chi surged out of his body, instantly tearing apart the palm attack and killing that cultivator on the spot. Following that, Chu Kuangren formed a hand seal and guided the earth chi to form an ancient godly mountain that blasted the remaining cultivators away. After that, Chu Kuangren turned around to look at the demonic spear of apocalypse. He reached out to hold the spear's handle, and it felt cold to the touch. Boom! The spear vibrated, and a violent surge of demonic chi erupted. Surrender! Chu Kuangren activated the 4 supreme foundation levels within his body, and a majestic spiritual power surged out to suppress the demonic spear of apocalypse. Even though it was a sage ruler weapon, it was still a weapon. It would not be able to unleash much of its power if no one was using it. Chapter 102. Chu Kuangren held the demonic spear of apocalypse in his hand and felt the power it contained. It was extremely powerful, much more powerful than his descendant self-sword. Too bad it's a spear, not a sword. Chu Kuangren felt a little regretful. However, he quickly put that thought behind him. After all, he did not come looking for this demonic weapon because he was lacking weapons. With the appearance of this demonic weapon, it's time to end this demonic onslaught. Chu Kuangren murmured and tossed the demonic spear into his yin and yang ring. As the demonic spear disappeared, the cultivators who were bewitched gradually returned to normal and felt their scalps go numb. F***ck me, that demonic spear is too evil. What a terrifying demonic weapon. I can't even control myself. The cultivators were still traumatized. However, Chu Kuangren was not interested in them at all. After he exited the crevice, he said to the mountain river Taoist, "Spread the news that the demonic spear of apocalypse is with me. If they want it, tell them to come to me." The mountain river Taoist and the others could guess what Chu Kuangren was planning. He was planning to use the demonic spear as bait to attract all the demonic cultivators in northern Lingdao and then kill them all in one fell swoop. "I'll inform the Li family head to get ready," the mountain river Taoist said solemnly. It was not an easy task to wipe out all the demonic cultivators in northern Lingdao. It required a lot of manpower. They even needed to call back those who were sent out. "Don't do anything unnecessary. All you need to do is spread the news," Chu Kuangren said. "Brother Chu, what do you mean by that?" The mountain river Taoist was confused. "Just do as I say," Chu Kuangren said calmly. The mountain river Taoist's pupils shrank when he saw his calm demeanor. A terrifying and absurd idea popped into his mind. "Brother Chu, are you planning to deal with all these demonic cultivators by yourself? That's impossible. There are too many demonic cultivators in northern Lingdao now. How can you deal with them all by yourself?" "I know what I'm doing." The mountain river Taoist had no choice but to do as he was told. Then, the news of the demonic spear's reappearance began to spread. As the central area, the mountain river city knew about it. Everyone could guess what Chu Kuangren was thinking. They knew that he wanted to use the demonic spear of apocalypse to gather all the demonic cultivators together. However, it was useless even if he knew, because this was an overt plot. If he wanted the demon spear, he would have to find him even if he knew it was a trap. I can't believe that Chu Kuangren has found the demonic spear of apocalypse. What a surprise. Is he going to use this demonic spear to lure all the demonic cultivators here and kill them all at once? That sounds like a good idea. Humph. How could he possibly wipe out all the demonic cultivators in the Dao province with that little bit of manpower he has? It's about time he came to ask for our help. TSK, I really wonder how Chu Kuangren looks like when he's begging someone. I'm really looking forward to it. That's right. Let's all enjoy it together then. Inside the mountain river city, the sky prides from the various sacred lands and the people they had brought along were all waiting for Chu Kuangren to come to them for help. But 1 day, 2 days, 3 days had passed, but Chu Kuangren still had not gone to look for them. The news of the demonic spear's reappearance had spread across the entire northern Lingdao state. Many demonic cultivators were already on their way to the mountain river city. If they did not make preparations soon, it would be too late. At that moment, the sky prides in the mountain river city could no longer sit still. What the hell is Chu Kuangren trying to do? Why hasn't he come to us for help yet? Humph, without us, how is he going to wipe out all the demonic cultivators in the northern Lingdao state? Is he going to ask for help from the orthodoxies? That's impossible. Distant water cannot quench present thirst. Besides, this demonic onslaught is a form of training given to us by the older generation. They won't act rashly. D***, what is Chu Kuangren trying to do? All of the sky prides were confused. Then more news came. Chu Kuangren had left the mountain river city and headed towards a nearby mountain range. It seemed like he was going to fight to the death with a group of demonic cultivators there. At that moment, all of the sky prides knew what Chu Kuangren was trying to do. He was trying to fight all the demonic cultivators by himself. F***ck me, does this guy have a death wish? Doesn't he know how many demonic cultivators there are in the northern Lingdao state? How can he deal with all of them by himself? He's just digging his own grave. I heard that he did not even summon back the disciples from the great orthodoxies that he had sent out to save people. This time he's dead meat. In the mountain river city, the mountain river Taoist, Li family head, and the others naturally knew about Chu Kuangren's plan. They could not help but exclaim, "Brother Chu is such a righteous man." Meanwhile, the news had also spread out in the city. All of the refugees and ordinary citizens knew that Chu Kuangren was going to fight all the demonic cultivators by himself. This caused countless people to be shocked and convinced. In an instant, Chu Kuangren's image in the hearts of the people had skyrocketed. Compared to the likes of Gu Chang'e and Fang Tian, he was many times better. The ordinary citizens were indeed weak, but they were not blind. They could tell who was truly sincere in helping them solve the demonic onslaught. The sacred lands of serene wisdom, the Jiang Valley, and the sage orthodoxies are all bullsh**t. They're not even worth the strand of Master Chu's hair. That's right. Ever since Master Chu arrived, he has been accepting refugees and sending people to various places to provide disaster relief. He's so much better than the other sky prides who only know how to enjoy themselves. Master Chu is the one who truly wants to save us. Public opinion exploded. Chu Kuangren was praised by everyone as the savior of the northern Lingdao state. As for the other sky prides, they were scolded for being good-for-nothings. Even their orthodoxies were cursed. Ao Chang, Lin Badian, Fang Tian, and the others could not sit still anymore. Why did they come to the northern Lingdao state? Of course, it was to increase the prestige of their orthodoxies. However, after what Chu Kuangren had done, not only did they lose their prestige, but their reputation had also been tarnished. "Brother Lin, let's do something now." In a great hall, Lin Badian and the others were gathered together. The one who spoke was Fang Tian from the Five Ways sect, and he looked a little anxious. "If we don't act now, Chu Kuangren will take all the limelight." Yuan Hong from the Dharma sect also suggested to act as soon as possible to eradicate the demonic onslaught. "Why should we act now?" At that moment, Ao Chang spoke. Everyone looked at him with a puzzled expression. "Even if we act now, Chu Kuangren will take all the limelight, popularity, and prestige. The people will only think that we're acting because of public opinion," Ao Chang said. "Then what should we do?" Wait for Chu Kuangren to fail. With so many demonic cultivators, I don't believe that he can fight them all by himself. Once he fails, the people will definitely fall into despair. Then we'll act and save the day. We'll save the people from this disaster and put an end to this demonic onslaught. Ao Chang's suggestion made many people's eyes light up. Since they could not save any face by acting now, they might as well wait for Chu Kuangren to fail before they act. Not only would that increase their prestige, but it would also damage Chu Kuangren's reputation. What a good way to kill two birds with one stone. I agree. Me too. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.